Hey guys, what you're about to see here is what I feel like is one of the best webinar type of talks that I've ever done in my life. So I wanted to, get this and put this on the channel because I thought this would be of high value to you. I answer a ton of questions, a bunch of questions about real estate investing, about making money, about becoming an entrepreneur, about life goals and achieving things in life. Just a huge amount of pretty much all of the wisdom that I've put together on this channel in one kind of talk. So I think that you're going to find it extremely useful. That's why I asked to get the ability to put this up here. This first appeared in Modern Life Dating's webinar. You can check out his channel below, Modern Life Dating, John from Modern Life Dating. He's a really awesome guy. He invited me to come and talk to his private group there, and so you're seeing an inside view of the kind of webinars he puts on. I was really impressed with what he's put together, and this is not necessarily an advertisement for selling you anything at this point, but it's worth checking out, and like I said, this is the kind of caliber of content that he's been pitching to his group, which I think is awesome. I was especially excited to go and talk to people that had some really good questions there, so check it out, and like I said, if you want to see some more of this kind of stuff, obviously subscribe to the channel, and you can find other talks like this in my membership group, in the Bulldog Mindset membership, and also in John's on Modern Life Dating. So, all right, guys, without further ado, enjoy.
All right, gentlemen, welcome to the Q1 session of the Masculine Empowerment Network for the 2020 year. We are here with John Somnes from Bulldog Mindset. John is as described on his Instagram, a multimillionaire, entrepreneur, fitness guru, and all-around hot dude. John, thank you so much for being here and fielding these questions, sir. If you'd like to give you a little bit of background story to these guys, or tell them a little bit about yourself, by all means, please start.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing I can say is that, I went through a huge transformation, right? I was basically, the way I described it, a lazy, fat, socially awkward dude, right? And complete nerd, completely just shy, all the things that you can think of that I feel like, I've been able to transform myself out of. And, that's really what I help guys do with Bulldog Mindset, as I help guys to be able to transform themselves, to unlock. And a lot of the key to it is understanding what it means to be a man, unlocking your masculinity, and developing what I call the Bulldog Mindset, which is really, the easiest way to put it is it's the opposite of the victim mindset, right? The victim mindset says, oh, it's someone else's fault. Oh, shit's happening to me. Life is unfair. The Bulldog Mindset says, hey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happened. It's mine. I own this. I have to do something. It's my life. I have to take full control over everything and every circumstance in my life and take ownership for it. And that's the key. And that's really, I think it's very related to what it is to be a man. And it's very related to, like I said, the Bulldog Mindset, Stoic philosophy, and it's succeeding in life. Those things sort of go together. And so, so that's what I do. My background, I could talk about all kinds of stuff, but yeah, I run this company, another company called Simple Programmer. So
I love it. And the MGTOWs hate you, right?
The MGTOWs do hate me. I just got so some guy just left a comment just today, and he's like, if I ever see you in my town, I'm going to kick your ass and stab you with a knife. And I was like, oh, okay, that's good. Got to get a death threat at least once.
But you're a big boy, right? Aren't you like 6'5" or something? How tall are you?
I'm 6'3". I'm 6'3", about 230. So.
Oh, he better bring a big knife.
Yeah.
And John, are you using TRT?
Yeah, I just started maybe 6 months ago or so.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I haven't really been on it very long. It's kind of weird. I was really hesitant. I was against TRT actually for a while. Mm-hmm. But my SHBG levels were super high, and I think it's because of the fasting plus the long distance running. So I'm a marathoner actually. I'm running an ultra marathon here in the next couple of months, and so I go big runs without eating, and then I think it messed up on my SHBG, and it was like 7 or 8 times reference range. So I was like, all right, well, you know what? I can either like completely modify my lifestyle and not do the kind of crazy shit that I want to do. I mean, I'm 39, so probably about that time. So I was like, fuck it. Let's see how this works. Let's see if this, and you know, my motivation came back a little bit more. I think sex drive went up, and I feel better overall. SHBG went down. So I think it's good. Didn't really see much of a composition change, actually muscle composition though. Like, you know,
how much are you taking every week?
100 milligrams.
Oh, okay. So not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Yeah, not much. I just want to get things back to normal for SHBG, just so I feel normal. But yeah.
Good stuff. Well, we got a question here from Thomas. Thomas, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, buddy? Let's see what you got.
Yep. Hey, John.
Hey, bud. What's up?
Hey.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Other John.
Yeah, sorry.
My question is, how important do you think 5G will be in the future? When 5G reaches the U.S. on a widespread basis, how do you think students specializing in IT could learn the skill effectively?
So you're talking like the 5G networks, the ones that cause the coronavirus?
Yep, those.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, there's some real big push to make this happen, right? So I think there's a lot of companies that have invested a lot into this infrastructure and this network. You know, I'm sure you've seen how vehemently they're fighting and how much power is behind 5G with London Real, you know, Brian Rose and the whole David thing. I've been getting. So there's some serious powers that want this to happen, which means there's a lot of money behind it. So it's always good to follow the money. I mean, you know, I think that if you invest in that technology, like the skills for that technology, it's going to be all over the place, right? So those things are going to need to be maintained. The modems that are going to communicate over 5G, those are going to always be going to be utilized, and then the software that runs on those. So I think it's a pretty solid skill set, and it's a very specialized. It's good that it's specialized. So I would say that it's a pretty good bet. I mean, you're not going to go wrong. It's not like you're betting on some technology that might work. It's pretty much going to happen, and it's pretty much going to be a solid technology. So yeah, I think it's a good prospect.
Would you say it's going to be on the category of like essential work? Like, would you think, you know, because like right now there's people who be like who are not working and people who are working. What would you say it falls along the lines?
Yeah, I think it'll fall into that category. I mean, think about, especially if they're using it to, you know, deploy the mind control network. I mean, you know, during this while everyone's in their houses. So, you know, those people are out there. No, I mean, it makes sense, because the biggest thing you can say is that, well, you know, emergency response communications are always essential. So yeah, so I would say that it's probably going to fall into that category. So
good stuff. And John, your background is you're a software engineer, right?
Yeah, I was a software engineer for about 15 years. So.
And then would you call yourself an expert at real estate investments and all that?
I mean, I would say so. I specialize in the way that I do real estate investment, but I've been investing for 20 years. So
yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So guys, just so you know, John is in the house, and also Rollo Tomasi is in the house for you guys. It was my fault. I miscommunicated the time to him, so he's here tonight. So we got a double header. So make sure to use this. Looks like the questions are piling in, John. Ryan Apollo.
The camp is here. The camp is here.
What's up, Rollo?
Sorry about this morning.
You're good. You're good. Let's do. Okay, go ahead, buddy.
All right. Hey, John. I just want to say I've been following you since the Simple Programmer days as kind of like a shadow viewer or whatever. So pretty cool to finally see you in here. Yeah, my question was, you know, I know you did software development in the past. So currently for work, I do cybersecurity, like on the offensive side, but I do a lot of coding in my free time. And my goal eventually is to work for myself, essentially. I'm looking into sort of like software as a service, like developing something like that. But right now, and before I get to that point, I was thinking about doing some freelance, like web development and stuff like that, just to get some more experience. Like, I know that like freelancing is like not a good time for dollar trade, but I was just thinking maybe to get myself some more experience and get a little bit, level up in coding a bit, and then try to create some software. What is your take on that? I was wondering.
Okay, yeah. So I'll start kind of at a higher level, the way I think of businesses and which, so the way I think of businesses in general is that everything has a role, right? A job, or whether you do things yourself or not, there are distinct job responsibilities and roles, right? So just for an instance, right? A lot of my business is run online, right? I mean, they run online, so I have websites, right? Now, I'm a software developer by trade, right? I can write in many different programming languages. I taught software development on Pluralsight in many courses, right? Yet, if you go to my websites, they run on WordPress, right? And real software developers, they don't like WordPress. They're like, PHP and WordPress. Why don't you just code up your own website? And the reason why is because I'm a business owner. I am the person that and through my business, I create the content. I create the YouTube videos. I create the content that gets put on the pages, that gets marketed, and I create some of the marketing material. That's my role and my responsibility. So even though I have the capability to code, I don't touch it, and I don't want it to be in a language that I would mess with, because I'll hire someone or I'll use the software off the shelf. Or if I do need some WordPress work, I don't do it. I could mess with the PHP probably better than the people that I hire, but I hire someone specifically to do that. Now, the reason why I'm starting it from that level is because I want you to separate those things out in your head, because a lot of people that are starting out trying to start a business, they think that whatever they're doing, that's what they should do as a business. And if you're trying to build a SaaS company, right, the only advantage of you coding the SaaS is that you don't have to pay someone else to do it, right? So that's really so you got to think about it, but you're essentially paying yourself, because you're still going to pay that role. You're still going to pay someone that you're going to spend that time. So wherever you spend the time, you should always spend your time at the most profitable place at any given time, right? Especially in a business, right? So again, if we go back to my example, the most profitable place for me to spend my time is creating content, is setting the direction of the company, is hiring people, is giving direction and delegating. That's where I make $10,000 an hour, type of work. So I spend my time there, not coding, not fixing a website, not fixing even titles on YouTube videos and any of that stuff, or uploading them. Like, I don't do any of that stuff, or editing them. So again, the reason why I'm saying this is because not to say that you shouldn't necessarily build your own SaaS application, but if you don't have the skills to build the SaaS application now, don't go and then do freelancing to do web development in order to develop the skills, in order to then go back and then develop the SaaS application. What I would say is, if it's not your wheelhouse, but you're interested in development, you do some programming, do the cybersecurity, do consulting in cybersecurity, make a bunch of money as a freelancer doing cybersecurity, where you're going to make a lot of it. Because if you go freelancing on web development right now, being a newbie, you're not going to make more than $10 an hour. Okay, you'll learn some stuff, sure, and then maybe you can build your SaaS app. But if you go and freelance now as a cybersecurity expert, maybe you can make 100, maybe 150, maybe $200 an hour, or maybe you can build a business around that, and then you can funnel that money to a developer in India that you're going to pay $20 an hour to develop your SaaS application, and you come up with a plan. And the other advantage of that is, with building a business and building a company, the biggest challenge is not coding it, right? I deal with a lot of developers, and most developers think, okay, if I build a really good product, I'll make a lot of money, and they consider that to be the criteria for success. That's the lowest thing on the criteria for success. You could literally build the shittiest product in the world, but if you have excellent reach and you have excellent marketing, you'll make a shit ton of money. Now, when you deliver a shitty product, people will refund it, and you'll have complaints, and you'll get bad word of mouth. And yeah, so don't deliver a shitty product. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that's the least important thing in business. So don't, spend all your effort, focus on the least important thing. Instead, see where you can make the most money, where you're the most valuable. And then if you can hire someone, if you can arbitrage that time, if you can make $50, $100 an hour somewhere, and then take half of that pay and pay a developer to actually build the application, and you're spending your time doing the more valuable thing of directing it and building the idea of it, that's probably going to be more valuable. Now, if you're already a developer and you're already like a senior developer, I'd be giving you slightly different advice. I'd be like, yeah, sure, go ahead and build it yourself, because it would make more sense. But in this case, that would be the advice I would give you.
Okay. Yeah. I guess in my head, I was thinking that like in the beginning, you would need to do some more things on your own when you don't have as many resources and don't have as much. But
yeah,
I guess that was the lines along which I was thinking, but.
Also think of like where you're going to be. Like, again, I'm giving you this advice from someone who's made mistakes, right? But think of where you're going to be in 5 years from now. Like if you start the company, you're not going to be the one coding. So investing in that role is not the best thing. Like if you have to, and you have to bootstrap it, and there can be some value to it. Like I said, if you already have the skill set, but you want to be like, if you want to scale a company and build an actual real big company, you can't be the one coding it. Like you know what I mean? Like you can work for a company and be the one coding it, but you can't build a big company being the one coding it. And at some point you're going to want to build a big company. I say this because I know it. And I did a lot of things with my businesses early on that made it unscalable or difficult to scale that I had to figure out later on. But now if I was starting a business fresh from now on, I would want to make myself as least involved in the day-to-day operations of the actual production of the product as possible, and make my job in the business the overarching as much as possible. And again, I know when you're starting out, you got to do all the work because you don't have the budget to hire people. But if you can do a regular job and take the money and then spend that money to hire people, then that would be a better solution. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Awesome. You're on point there, John. I love it. Okay. Go ahead. You're up next.
Yeah, I got a question for John from Bulldog Mindset. Just curious, John, what advice do you have for someone who's looking to build a real estate empire?
To build a real estate empire. Okay. Well, you give me a little bit more about it. So it's really what we got to look at is what is your plan? Like, what do you want as an outcome from it? Right? Because there's a lot of different things that you could do with a real estate empire, right? Do you want to have just as much net worth as possible? Do you want to have cash flow so you can retire?
Yeah, as much net worth as possible. So I looked at your last post on Instagram. Mm-hmm. You said invest in yourself, get an office job, and then, diversify your investments. To give you a little context, I'm working in an office right now. Last year I just made 6 figures. So now this year I'm focusing on getting enough funds for a down payment and then building the real estate empire. Okay.
So there's this little concept I have in real estate. I call it the leverage cash flow knob. Okay. So imagine like a knob, right? And you can turn this knob all the way over to the left, let's say, and we're going to leverage land. Okay. When we go into leverage land, what happens is we increase our risks, definitely. But what we're doing is we're reducing the cash flow that we make from the property, but we're increasing the overall profit that we can make from the property. Okay. We're increasing our return at the cost of cash flow in the immediate, and possibly at the cost of having negative cash flow, which is kind of dangerous. So we could turn that knob all the way and we can get into danger zone, okay? We can turn the knob all the way to the cash flow side, and what happens is that we reduce our leverage in the property, thus reducing our profitability, but we get money in our pocket right now, right? So I'll give you an example. It's just a simple example here. Let's say you could buy a house for $100,000, okay? Now, you could buy that house and you could buy it $100,000 cash, right? If you had $100,000 cash, you could say, here you go. I don't need a loan, 100 grand, slide the suitcase over, right? All right. So that's turning the knob all the way to the cash flow side. Okay. Now, when you do it like that, let's say that you've got some taxes and insurance and stuff, but let's just make it simple. And let's say you get $1,000 a month rent. Let's say it's a 10% cap rate, right? That just means you get a 10% return on the value of the property, essentially, right? I'm simplifying things, but for everyone here. But okay, so let's say you get $1,000 a month. Okay, so the knob is turned all the way to cash flow. So what happens? You get $1,000 in a month in your pocket every month. Okay, and then let's say that the value of that property goes up 3%. Okay, so what's your return on your investment of your $100,000 after 1 year? Let's say it goes up 3%.
3% plus the 10%.
It'll be 3% plus the 12 grand that you made on the, so maybe like 4 or whatever percent, something around there. But let's say 3% on just the appreciation side. Okay, plus, so 3% appreciation, 12 grand in your pocket. Okay, side, you got taxes, insurance, some of that, we're just gonna ignore that for now. Okay, now let's say that we wanna crank it over to the leverage side, right? And let's say that you take that same $100,000 property, and instead of paying $100,000 cash for it, you go to the bank, before the whole COVID-19 thing, and they tightened up their, tightened up everything, and you say, yeah, I want to do that 10% down loan, and I'm going to get a second mortgage on the property, right? But it's such a good deal, this property that you got, that let's say that you get 10% down on the property, okay, and you're still getting rent, $1,000 a month, but that just pays for the mortgage. You got really low interest rates. Let's say you're break even on it. Maybe you're slightly in the negative, 50, $100, whatever. But you're basically, to make things simple, we'll say you're break even. Okay. So now you've got just $10,000 into it. Okay. Still worth $100,000. It goes up 3% in value. What is your return on your investment?
The 12,000 plus the amount that you're getting for the rent if you're renting it out.
So the rent is a wash. It's zero. You rent and your mortgage payment, they cancel each other out. So the property value just goes up 3%.
So you're getting the 12,000.
You sell that property for, it was 100 and now it's worth 103, right? So you sell that property for $3,000, or you get for a profit of $3,000, but it's $3,000 profit on a $10,000 investment. So it's a 10x lever. So your return on your money is 30%. Okay. Instead of 3%. If you're all in cash, you turn the knob all the way to cash flow, you get cash flow in your pocket, but you only get 3% return on your money, right? In this scenario. If you turn it all the way over to leverage, pretty much as far as you can go, you get a 30% return on your investment of 10 grand, but you get no money in your pocket. In fact, maybe it's an alligator that's taking a little bit of money out of your pocket in the immediate term. Okay. Now this is a real simplified view, but it's just to understand the concept of, if you want to build net worth, you want to crank that lever closer to the leverage side. Probably not so far, probably not that far, because the other thing is when you switch it to leverage, okay, you put yourself in a position where if something goes wrong, you don't have cash flow to cover it. Now, if you're in a 30-year fixed loan, right, which is what I always recommend. I went through the 2008 bubble. Believe me, I had all my properties. I made money in 2008 after that happened because I had 30-year fixed mortgages. But what I'm saying is that if you want to build net worth, you need leverage. Okay. And everyone's scared and they're like, oh, leverage is bad. But let me tell you, I'll tell you a story, because every time I say this, people are like, oh, no, you're giving bad advice, John. You're going to get people killed in real estate. But let me tell you. Okay. So in 2008, 2007, whatever the peak of the market was, right before the crash, I bought a fourplex for $425,000. Okay. And I put 20% down on that property. Okay. Now I got a 30-year fixed loan on the property. Okay. So I had my rents and I had my mortgage. Okay. And I had taxes, insurance, expenses. So my rents covered the mortgage payment and the tax insurance. So I basically broke even, $0 in my pocket on that property. Maybe a little bit. I made like maybe $100 or $200 a month on that property. Okay. 2008 hits and the value of the property gets cut in half. Literally the unit next to me got in a short sale and they sold it for $200,000 or $225,000. So literally my value went from $425,000 to basically $200,000, maybe $225,000. It got cut in half. Okay. But it didn't matter to me. Why? Because even though I'm leveraged, I'm smart because I have a 30-year loan and I'm in it for the long haul because I want net worth. That's what I'm after. Okay. Long-term net worth. I'm not speculating. I'm investing. So what happened was nothing. Nothing happened to me. On paper, my value was gone, but my rents were still the same. My mortgage payment doesn't change because it's a 30-year fixed loan. And then what ended up happening was actually my rents went up because no one could buy houses. So rents went up. So it's actually in a better position after 2008 while everyone else was scrambling and losing their asses. And then a couple of years later, mortgage rates dropped down and I refinanced. And so now I had money in my pocket. I had good cash flow in there. And, people say, oh, you're fortunate you didn't have your renters or you didn't lose your renters, which is negligible in the long run. So again, you could lose renters when there's an economy that crashes. But in that case, most of the time and you can look at this statistically throughout time, when economies crash and there's recessions, rents go up. They don't go down. They go up. And the reason why is because People can't afford to buy houses because what tightens up more than paychecks is banks. Banks don't want to lend money. So anyway, what ended up happening is now that property is worth, like $650,000. So I've got the net worth growth there, but I was able to hold on to the property without the risk. Now, it's bad when things like that happen, but the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because I don't want to just give you some advice and say leverage, because that would be bad, because there's a lot of ways you can leverage, and there's a lot of people that leveraged and they lost their asses when the market tanked because they didn't have 30-year fixed loans, because they had short-term speculative properties that were not good investments to start with. And what ended up happening was, ARMs basically, pay option ARM was the popular thing at that time, which was where you basically only paid the interest on the loan. And so that actually could turn on you when the interest rates went up, or things happened bad, right? At my worst case, I might be out like a couple $100 if one of the units was vacant. Okay, but anyway, what I'm saying, this whole thing, if you want to build a real estate empire, what you want to do is you want to buy properties consistently with a good amount of leverage, not too much. I would put 20%, maybe 25% down. It depends on the market. It depends on the deal. You want to buy things under market as much as possible, because that bakes in some security into something that is somewhat risky. And you always want to be at least slightly cash flow positive on the deal so that you can handle anything. And you want to do all the calculations, right? So you say, all right, what is the mortgage payment going to be? What are taxes? What are insurance? What is the association fee, if there is? What is the maintenance on the property? And then you budget for capital expenses, right? So you got to replace a roof someday. You budget all that stuff in, and you run the numbers meticulously, and then you find out, okay, am I secure in this deal so that it's a good investment? If it is, then you pull the trigger, and you just keep on repeating that process over time. And what's going to happen is, while you're leveraged like that, okay, you're going to get that growth, that leverage growth, but you're not going to be taking on the risk because you're going to be doing 30-year fix and doing your math. Okay, other people that get in trouble with leverage, they don't do the math. Okay, if you do that and you're patient, if you're willing to do this as a 20-year play, all right, you will become wealthy from doing that. If you're willing to invest for 20 years, right? You don't want to invest for, like, people that try to make money in real estate in 5 years. Those are the people that they get fucked by the market turning on them. Flipping stuff, that's no good. Okay. Instead, you're investing for the long haul, and you're using that leverage. And at any time, see, this is the beauty about net worth. You can always convert net worth into cash flow at any time, right? So if you have a huge net worth, let's say your net worth becomes $10 million. At some point, you can just take that $10 million, you can take that net worth out of whatever you have it, and you can now be unleveraged. Now you could buy $10 million worth of real estate unleveraged, and you can just get the cash flow, and then you can retire, right? So early in your investing career, leverage, okay? And that's when you can afford to take the risk, because you don't even have much to lose at that point. Later on, as you start to increase that net worth, okay, then you want to have more cash flow. Then you're turning the knob here, right? So for example, when I retired, quote, retired like 7 years ago, I turned the knob all the way here. I was a little bit too conservative with it, but I paid off all my properties. And so I had, I've got about $4 million worth of properties that's all paid off cash. And I get a lot of cash flow. I make like 15, 20K a month in cash flow from the properties. I don't really need to do that. I probably should go back a little bit more on the leverage side, but I didn't really understand that concept fully at that point. Does that make sense? That's how you build up an empire, is you got to use leverage.
Yeah, it does. So you recommend focusing on cash flow, not on house flipping, and looking at long-term leverage. That, just to kind of put everything in perspective. That would be your recommendation, the long-term leverage approach.
Yeah. Long-term leverage approach. That's the way to get capital appreciation over time in real estate. If you don't do it that way, and you can do other things inside of the realm of real estate. You can buy properties under market, and you can do fixer-uppers and stuff like that. But I don't even talk about that, because that's not investing. That's running a fixer-upper business. And if you just happen to hold on to the properties that you fix up, those are two different business entities, two business activities, right? And people get confused. They say, I'm doing real estate investing, and they're flipping houses, or they're buying fixer-uppers and fixing them up. I'm like, no, you're running two businesses. One business is a wholesale operation, but then you're wholesaling to yourself, okay? And then you're an investor. But those are two different things. So that's why I always talk about the investing side, because if you want to do other stuff, wherever you can make the most money, make the most money. If you really want to build a real estate empire, if that's your job, if it's flipping houses, then fine. If you want to do that to make money, whatever it is where you can, business is probably the best way, honestly. That's how you really get rich, is you make a lot of money in business and then you store it in real estate. But what
would you factor in your do you depend on real estate for cash flow, or is it just like, is it you supplement money or food money, or where would you allocate that in regard to your personal finances?
Yeah, good question. So I have a concept that I call the well that never runs dry. It's somewhat of a conservative concept, but I think every single multimillionaire that I know of that's successful does some variation of this. They just don't call it that. I have a name for it. I call it, like I said, the well that never runs dry. It's basically this. Okay, let me give you kind of the frame behind this. So the frame behind this is, you hear of all these people that make a lot of money, like these startup kids that make all these millions of dollars and then they spend it all, or they live these extravagant lifestyles and then they run out of money, and then you're like, what a fucking idiot, right? Or NBA stars and shit like that, okay? The fundamental problem is, how do you know how much money you can spend? You don't know. Like, how do you know? Like, you should live below your means, but when you get a lot of money, how do you know what your means are? So here's what I do. I take all the money I make, everything I make from business before, when I was working a regular job, from there, okay, all the money I make from all my businesses, and I take all of that and I put it into real estate, okay, and then that real estate is the well that never runs dry. And I don't spend any of the money that comes from my work or from my business. It only goes into real estate, okay? I don't spend any of it. Now, the money that comes out of real estate, that's my well, and I live off of that. And I can spend every cent of that. So if I'm making $15,000 a month from real estate, guess how much of that I need to save for the future? Zero. I can spend all of it. Why? Because next month it comes right back, 15,000. It's like a well, it refills.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the beauty of it, because if you do that, then what happens is, I'm still making all this money from my business, right? I'm not spending any of that money. I'm just buying more real estate with it. Boom. I'm making the well deeper, digging the well deeper. Pretty soon you're making $20,000 a month, right? I know some guys that are more advanced than me that are making like $50,000 a month. And they can spend $50,000 a month. They can move their lifestyle up to $50,000 a month. And it's not reckless, because every month they're going to get another $50,000. That well is going to refill, and all the money they're making from their business and everything else, they're dumping it back into digging the well. And if you use that strategy, it takes a little bit to get it started, right? But if you can live really on a meager income, like a lot of guys that I'm coaching, that I'm helping get started with this, they start off and we just get them to the point where they're making like $2,000 a month of passive income from real estate. It's not too hard to do. You could probably do that in 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years. And when you get to that point, then you just live off of $2,000 a month. It's a pretty meager living. But every single month, as you make more money and you do a new real estate deal, and now it's $2,500, now it's $3,000, now it's $4,000. Pretty soon you're a baller, spending $10,000 a month tax free, and because you've got it all in passive real estate income, right? I mean, that's kind of the way that it's, like I said, it's somewhat conservative, but it's a way that you'll never run out, and it's a way to create true wealth, because it replenishes every single month.
That's amazing. Do you live pretty Spartan yourself?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
You have like cleaning ladies and stuff.
What's that?
You have cleaning ladies?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't do menial tasks and stuff like that. It's not worth your time, yeah.
No, I don't spend my time on anything that I don't want to. Right? I spend the money on stuff like that. Like, as far as, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'll spend money. I can live pretty Spartan, like in general. But if I go somewhere, right, I'm gonna probably fly first class most of the time. I'm gonna stay at a really nice hotel, right, because I'm gonna eat at $200 a dinner restaurant and stuff like that, because I have the money to spend it, right? And that's what I'm gonna spend it on. But like, I don't have a bunch of cars or toys and shit like that. So.
And that's amazing. And like, you're 39, you're so like, you're handsome, you're jacked as fuck, you're rich as fuck, like you're living the dream. What would you tell like some of these, I talked to some of these guys, they're like, I'm 25, I'm old, my life is over. Like, what would you say to those guys?
You are like, man, this is what I would say. You don't even know, like, this is your grinding time, motherfuckers. Yeah. Like, this is the time when you fucking grind.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to, when you hit like 30s, okay, if you play your cards right in your 20s, you can get those 21-year-old girls that you can't even, don't even pay attention to you at 25, because who the fuck are you at 25?
Yep.
Right? But you're like, your best years are going to be like, honestly, should be 30 to 40. I think. I mean, all the YOLO kids that, you know, pop bottles at the club on a credit card in their 20s, waste of fucking time. Like, their rest of their life is downhill. They're like going to be like Uncle Rico. Like, stupid. Grind for in your 20s, right? Have a vision of what you want to be in your 30s. You know, in fact, you should always be living. You should always be living, making decisions for the person that you're going to be 5 years from now, right? That's the decisions you should always be making in life. You should always be like here, I'm mailing every day. You should be like in an envelope and like, here's some cash, dude. Here's like, oh yeah, let's I'm gonna make you look good, and you know, mailing this package of goodies to your future, you know, addressing it to your future self for 5 years from now, and sending it every day. You should send a new package up forward 5 years from now, and then 5 years from now, you're gonna be every day. You'll be like, fucking open a package, like, oh shit, that's awesome, right? And every day is gonna be a fucking awesome day. But you got to be sealing up those packages and then mailing them to the future now. And so that's what you should be thinking. Like in your 20s, think about how to make your 30s fucking rock. And that's going to be grinding it out right now. Get in the gym, get fucking ripped, get jacked, okay? Start building a business, right? Who cares if they live like a fucking pauper and live in your parents' basement for 10 years or 5 years while you're building your business? Sacrifice that so that when you're in your 30s, you're going to be rolling, be a millionaire, okay? Like, do all of those hard things now, especially when you got the energy. Because I'll tell you, it starts to drop off after maybe 35 or so. You don't have quite as much energy or the motivation anymore. So do all that work now. Fuck World of Warcraft and playing stupid games
Hey, John,
online.
I got a question for you, man.
Yeah.
What's shaking, brother?
What's up, man?
Question for you. So do you think it's easier to make a $1 million business than it is to get the perfect girl?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think it's a lot easier than to get the perfect girl.
I've said this before. I'm glad that you concur.
Yeah.
It is, man. And I see guys wasting way too much time on one-itis and chasing tail and pussy and stupid shit like that. And that becomes a lot easier once you get your money right. Like what John's talking about the well, pay fucking attention. He knows what he's talking about. The shit works. I do this stuff with private mortgages.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's so true. Because once you have that, I mean, you've got the power of selection, and that's key. Plus just even your own frame changes, right? Because when you know you're the fucking guy that made this money, like when some stupid thing wearing some short shit comes up to you at the club, you're like, okay,
you can call her a slut in here. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, whatever. You're like, okay, but what are you? Like your value, like when you're just some 25-year-old kid who hasn't done anything in your life and you see this hot girl, you're like, oh shit, like you feel lower than her. But when you've like fucking, you know, done hard shit in your life, you spent hours in the gym, fucking running races and fucking building a business. You're like, I don't got time for some bullshit chick that thinks that shit. Like you literally think that you're at a higher level because you know that you are.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and that's key, because then she did, you know, that's that whole framing. You're not faking a frame. It's your frame, because that's it. Because seriously, you don't have time for this shit.
I love it. Yeah, I'm gonna bump one guy to the front because he has to go real quick. Unmute yourself. Go with your question. He's like you 12 years ago. He's a software engineer and he's just closing the deal on his first house right now. He wants to build up his personal real estate empire. He's trying to get a second house right now, and he wants to know how to do that.
Hey, man. So yeah, basically, I'm closing on my first house right now. I'll be done in the next like 2 weeks.
Nice.
And it's duplex. And I went with FHA for the first one because it was a lot less cash down.
Yep.
And the less cash down was easier for me. I'm a dev too. I'm making about like upper 80s in the greater New Orleans area, which is pretty good. But after taxes, like the cash that I get really isn't, to me, it's not like a whole lot. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out I think from what I was told from lenders was that if I get a second duplex, I can't claim it as my primary residence. So I can't go with FHA. I have to go with the conventional loan, which would require a substantially larger amount down, right?
Yeah, I mean conventional. Well, okay, so FHA, it's like what, 3.5% is probably what you put down on that.
You can put down more than that, but yeah, I put down 3.5.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, and again, that's a great example of super leverage, right? Like if you're only putting 3.5% down, you're super leverage. I hope you're cash flowing or at least pretty close to positive on that. Are you at the end of the day?
Well, the thing is, it's a duplex, and I'm going to be living in one side, and the other side, my note with insurance and everything total is about $1,500 a month. There already is a tenant in the left side, and he just signed a lease with me today, and he's going to be paying about $1,000 a month. And so I'm going to be paying the remainder, which is about $500. But currently, right now, I'm paying $1,500 a month in rent. So it's like I'm going to be saving $1,000 a month, and
good deal.
On top of that, I'm getting equity in a house, right?
You're smart. I love it. Very smart move. Great move. Great move.
So I'm getting more cash flow, but the problem is, like, if I need to get another house, or if I wanted to get another house for the next, I'd like to be able to do another one within the next year, but I don't know if that's possible to get that much cash. So, like, what should I do other than like pick up random jobs on Upwork or something in my spare time to make more cash, or to try to get enough to get a second house if I have to go the conventional loan?
So there's a couple things I would say. The first one is do not buy a property right now. I mean, the one you've got sounds good. You're going to live in it, and you've got the other side rented out, and for $500 a month, I'll do that deal all day long. Any market, I don't care. That's great. Okay. But with what's going on in the economy right now, I mean, I never predict prices and markets, but I'm predicting now that the housing market is going to crash like a motherfucker. Okay. Because, and people are saying, yeah, it doesn't matter. The economy's booming. I've got short positions in the stock market right now because I know there is no way, I don't care what the numbers are showing on the ticker, when people aren't fucking working, okay, and the whole economy is fucking closed down, the whole world is almost closed down, there is no way that doesn't hurt the economy. It doesn't hurt us 6 months from now. So I'm expecting deals to be on the market. In fact, what I'm doing right now is I'm hoarding cash. I've got a couple of short positions in the market, okay, but I'm holding cash. I've got a lot of cash right now, all right, because what I'm happy, I'm ready for this. You know what's going to happen? When that market fucking crashes down and the prices get cut in half, damn, I'm going to be buying up real estate. So that's what you should be doing right now, is trying to get together as much money as possible. Now, as far as, I mean, it's bad timing right now with everything going on, but
yeah, you
should be making a lot more than $80K as a developer. You should be making like $120,000, $140,000. So I don't know if what your specialty is, but start working on, this is what I want you to do. Go hire a professional resume writer, get them to rewrite your resume, okay, professionally, all right? It's going to be like $400 or $500, but it'll be worth it, all right? And then you need to really carefully do a really good, thorough job search. So you want to apply for job. Like most people, when they apply for jobs, they go on to Dice or Monster or whatever bullshit, and they just like click, 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 and upload the resume. What you want to do is you want to look at every single job description. You want to pay attention to it very, very carefully. You want to go to research the company, research their website, research who owns the company, research the history of the company, research their stock ticker if they have it in the news. Okay, then you're going to take your resume and you're going to take that job description that they have, and you're going to look at all the keywords that they have in there and how they phrase things, and you're going to actually rephrase your resume. You know, you're not going to lie, but you're going to make it very targeted to that specific job. Okay, this is going to take a while to do it, and you're going to write a specific cover letter exactly about their history, about the company, about how you can serve them, what kind of value you can add for them, and you're going to apply for senior level positions doing that, and you're going to apply for 5 of them a day. Okay. If you do that, all right, and you do that consistently, in a month, you have a job making 6 figures, I guarantee you. And that's going to be the most significant thing that you're going to be able to do to raise your income, because you're already at that point. Because I know I coach a lot of software developers, and I tell you a true story. I got a guy right now. He lives in New York. His name is Dennis. He was in the Philippines, and he was like, he had just broken up with his girlfriend, some big drama that happened. But he had a job, and he was making like
70 something $1,000 a year, you know, as a front end developer doing React. And I was like, dude, are you serious? Like, you need to be making some serious money. So we did the exact process I'm telling you. Worked with him on the resume, worked with him on, on applying for the jobs very, very specifically like that. And he got a job making $150,000 a year. And those jobs are out there for sure. And if he can do it, you can do it. And it's just a numbers game. So that's going to be the best thing you can do, because when you have all that extra money to play with, because, in the long term, building a business will be better, right? And you can start doing that, start building a blog, start building some kind of side business while you're doing this, because it's going to take you like 2-3 years to build an audience or to build an actual business out of it. So start doing that as well in the meantime. But get a job that's just the quickest way to make more money right now. If you try to do freelancing and stuff like that, you're not going to make a lot of money. You're going to be trying to build a business around that. Instead, right now, the opportunity, the median pay for most developers for like a senior level position is like $140,000, $150,000. So you should be going after that.
Good
Okay.
stuff.
One more thing. The only thing though is like from my, and I could be wrong, but from my understanding in my area, most of the developer positions are like capped at like 125, and that's for like maxed out seniors. So should I be looking for like a remote job in a place like California or something?
Yeah, I mean, that's an option. So there's a couple options. One, start applying for those maxed out 120, get a 6-figure. Maybe you can't get 140, okay, where you're at. Even if you get 100, that's still going to be a lot more money than you're making now.
No, I'd be happy,
right?
For sure.
Yeah, so that's worth the effort. 100, 105, 110. Make sure you negotiate on the offer, by the way. If you get a job offer, you always send 2 counter offers, almost always, right? And make them name a number first. You're always never ever take the first offer that they give you. Always counter offer. It will always move up. All right. And I always recommend to counteroffer twice. I know most people are afraid to do that, but if someone's invested in you enough to give you a job or to offer you a job, if you do it in a respectful way, they're going to accept 2 counteroffers, and they're not, 3 is pushing it, but 2 is fine. So you could do that. The other thing is you can look for telecommute jobs, or, if you really are open to it, hey, maybe it's, a good time to move somewhere and then move back and do a telecommute at some point, right? You know what I'm saying? In fact, I was just working on a book. I'm just releasing a book through Simple Programmer called Remote Work. And
I get lots of stuff in my inbox, almost weekly, about job positions, but it's usually somewhere else. But I know I've held you up, but one more thing. I've only been developing for about 4.5 years.
That's fine.
Do you really think that I can get a senior position with 4.5 years?
Yep.
Do I lie to them about my time?
No, nope. If you have the demonstratable skill, that's what matters, right? That is the only thing that matters. That's what you have to push, right? I hope you're good at what you're doing, right? But I'll tell you, most developers are so shitty that you only have to be decent, right? I worked with a lot of senior developers. I trained a lot of senior developers. I interviewed people with fucking PhDs and supposedly 20 years of C++ experience that didn't know what object-oriented programming was when I worked at HP. Trust me, if these people can get fucking jobs that are senior level positions, you absolutely can. And I've coached a lot of guys, like I said, that had a couple years of front end experience, and they're able to get 6-figure jobs and get senior level positions. So, obviously, there's, I'm trying to kind of compress this, but obviously when you start applying for these jobs, you need to make sure that your interview game is on point, that your skill set is on point, that you have a very specific specialty that you're applying for with those jobs, and you can demonstrate that you can do the job and you have high proficiency in those skills. And so you might have to up your skills specifically in one area to be an expert in that area. But that's all doable within a few months worth of time.
Good stuff. You good?
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm good.
All right, let's go. John, you're on fire. I love it. Let's go to you. Go, buddy.
Oh, excellent. John, thank you for coming on. I just had a question. At your level of influence with goals in the realms of finances and fitness, what do you focus on now in terms of things that you're trying to achieve? I know you said you're trying to do an ultra marathon here soon. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to see if you could break down kind of the things that you have your mindset on and the goals that you're trying to hit at your level.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I just did a video talking about, I think it just came out yesterday, about retiring at 33 and why it sucked. Right. And what I was saying in that, and this is sort of where I would direct this, is that I didn't realize, like, all right, when I was younger, my goal was to retire young. Okay. And I had goals like, you know, to win some competition or to make a certain amount of money or to have a certain car. Like those were my goals, right? Or to get some hot chick. Like that was, and I got all those things. And every time I got those, life felt more meaningless to me and I was more depressed, especially when I hit the big one. When I hit the big retire young goal, that was the worst depression I ever hit in my life. I went to Hawaii, like lived on the beach, and I thought I was just going to play video games and drink Mai Tais. And I was like, damn, like, where's the fucking celebration? Like what happened here? Like, you know, I'm kind of going to give you a condensed version of the story. But the reason why I'm saying that is because the goals that I create now, so I was living my life in a way such that I was trying to get something. I was doing something to get something. Right. So I wanted to get the money. I wanted to get the girl. I wanted to get the 6-pack abs. Okay. And the problem with that is that what you need to do is you need to set your goals. Well, the problem with that is that when you live to get something, you get it and you're on this, you know, we have hedonistic adaptation. It's a disappointment. You're driving towards this thing and then all of a sudden it's gone and your meaning is gone because your purpose and meaning is tied to the goal. And when you hit the goal and that's it, then you're gone. Like, you know, part of you is gone. That part. So my goals now are about not what I get, but who I become. So, for example, take the ultra running, right? So why would I want to run a 100-mile race? Especially, I'm not built for it. I'm 6'3" and 230 pounds. I'm not I'm not your typical marathoner, so definitely not an ultra runner. But why am I doing it? Well, I'm not going to get any money for it. I'm not going to win the race. Trust me, at this weight, you know, it doesn't matter if I'm made of muscle. I'm not going to win the race. 130 or 140 pound guy is going to win the race. All right. You know, so I can't be the best at it. All right. And it's not the best way to be in shape, right? I mean, really, like running a 50 or 100-mile race probably is going to do more harm to your body than good. It's, you know, running a 10K or even a marathon is probably healthy, half marathon. Running a 50-mile race damages you. It's not good. Okay. And so it's not even for health. But the reason why I'm doing it is because of, and I set that goal because it's who I'll become by going down the path to achieve that. See, because when I'm the guy that ran a 50-mile race, like the path that takes me there of how it causes me to grow, the only thing that I can hold on to, there was this really good quote I saw the other day. I don't remember the author, but he said, the true value of a man is what's left after he loses everything. That's the true value of a man. And that's your character. That's, you know, if you go back to the ancient Stoics, that's what they tried to build. That's what they realized in life. Like the fundamental truth of life that the Stoics had, that Seneca had, that Marcus Aurelius had, was this idea that who you are is more important than any other thing, than what you have, than what kind of access to girls you have, or what kind of car you drive, or house you have, or the medals on your wall. It's about who you are. And so all of the goals that I create now are based on that. It's because I'm going to run an ultra marathon, because in order for me to get to the point where I'm the guy who finishes that race, I'm going to have to be the guy who finishes that race. And so my goal is not actually to get there. It's only to plant a flag to push me in the right direction. And when I get to there, I'm going to plant another flag and another flag. And I'm going to keep on planting flags. In business, I'm planting flags, right? So, you know, I don't care about some monetary arbitrary goal, because I know if I make $10 million, it'll feel the same as making $1 million or 100 million. It doesn't make a difference, right? But the reason why to plant that flag is to say, okay, well, you know, what are you going to have to do to be able to get to that, to become that person who is able to achieve that goal? And that's where I set the goals. And that's, again, you know, this is one of those things that if you can learn this early in life, you're going to save yourself a lot of fucking pain, because you know, every single, you know, guy out there in his 20s, when he's unable to get laid, it's like, if I could just get the one girl, just the one hot girl, just one time, my life would be so good. If I could just date this, you know, super hot girl, then my life would be so good. Or if I could just make $1 million, right? A lot of times it's centered around that one girl. And then maybe they get the girl. Usually they don't, because when you have that attitude, it's very unlikely. But let's say that you do, man, you realize that your whole, everything you were striving for was this pointless bullshit. And it didn't improve you as a person. You're left with an empty shell. And that's the reason why you get depressed when you reach your goals. So your goal has to be beyond the goal. It has to be more about who you become. And when you do that, then you have an infinite number of goals because you can never be done, because you can always grow as a person, and your goals become fulfilling because you never reach them.
Yeah. Okay. That was excellent, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Let's go to our next person in line, Mr. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Go ahead.
Realistically, I don't know where to start on getting involved in real estate. I had to sell my house during the split up, paid off everything, pretty much went to zero. What I've been doing now is just waiting for the market to bottom out before I buy anything at all. I live in an area where it's not really expensive like LA or anything like that, but in the area of Richmond, Virginia, it's one of the better school districts. So I think the rate now is about, say, 100 to 125 per square foot. I'd rather stay in this area because it's maintained its value even during the slump. But I really don't have the skills to get started aside from buying a house. Right now I'm renting an apartment, so I'm kind of pissing my money away. What are your thoughts on really incrementally getting started on a home? I'd like to get a duplex like Josh has. That's perfect because I can do general repairs on a home myself, but I'm also career-wise doing the trade my time for money scenario, and I'd really like to get out of that. What are your thoughts on getting started?
So I think one fundamental thing I think to talk about is that it is not necessarily better to buy than to rent. So again, I like to divide things up if you've noticed, like business like functions and everything. And I divide up investing as far as renting and buying in two separate buckets as well, right? So here's the way I look at it, right? You have your investor hat and you have your renter hat, okay? And let's say that you just have your investor hat on, okay? If you just have the investor hat on, what you're looking for is good investment properties, right? So properties that have a good return on your cash invested. So, good rule of thumb is good cash flowing properties, right? Things that have a good cash on cash return where you're going to get good cash flow. So what would be a solid investment as an investor, okay? Then we take off that hat for a minute and let's think about our renter hat. So with our renter hat, what's a good deal for us is something that's under market. That's one criteria, right? If we can find something where that it's priced cheaper than other things in the market, the location that's convenient for our work, so our commute is less, right? And then probably third most important thing is, and maybe it's the first most important thing, but that we're not wasting. So we're renting a space that is just as big as what we need. Because if we rent, let's say you're just one person and you rent a 4-bedroom house, that's a bad choice with the renter hat on because you're paying a lot more money for rooms you're not using. It doesn't make sense unless you're going to, house hack it. But just from the renter perspective, it doesn't make sense. So the reason why I start there is because what you got to do is a lot of times, the only time it makes sense to buy the house that you live in is when both of those hats, you can put them both on and the investor says, yep, that's a great deal. That's a great cash flowing property. If I rent it to someone, I'll make money on that deal. And then you put on the renter hat and yep, that's a perfect location. It's not too big for me, so I wouldn't be overpaying for the rent and I can get it under market. Okay. So when both of those things align, then you should buy the house and live in it. When they don't both align, then you shouldn't. So another way to think about this is that when you buy a house and you live in the house, you're an investor who bought a house and you're the renter who's renting the house from yourself. Because if you buy the house and let's say that it rents for $1,500 a month, okay? Well, if you don't live in it, you could rent it for $1,500 a month. So if you could rent a place that would meet your needs for $1,000 a month, yet you live in the place that you just bought, right, that you could rent out for $1,500 a month, you're basically throwing $500 in the trash every month, right? Because you're wasting money. It doesn't make any sense. So I think that's kind of like the fundamental place to start with it. And then you can decide, because sometimes, I've been in situations being a real estate investor where I've rented and then bought a house a couple neighborhoods down and rented it to someone else. So I'm renting from someone and I don't even own a house in this state, but I don't own a house that I live in, but I own a house that I'm renting to someone else because my investor had said that's a good deal, but I wouldn't want to live there. It's not a good deal for me. I can charge people way more rent than I would pay, and so I'll take that money. So that's kind of what you got to look at. So if you're looking at starting out, I mean, if you can find that, that kind of perfect deal, like the advantage of having a house that you live in, right, that you buy where you're the renter, is that you always pay the rent on time and you take care of the property, and you get a slight reduction in the interest rate on the mortgage because you get an owner occupancy reduction on that. But that's the only advantages that you have. If you can find that, it's good, but don't make that your absolute requirement. Instead, look for a good deal. And if it just so happens that the investment good deal is also one that you would live in, like I forgot his name, but
was doing,
yeah. With his, it was like, I would take that deal all day long, right? He got an FHA loan, right? So he got an advantage there. It was a duplex. And then after the renter paid, he only had to pay $500 a month, and he was already paying $50. So it was like a slamming deal for him. Now, here's the thing though, right? And this is what made his deal so good. This is what I analyzed in my head, is I said, okay, the other side of the duplex, he's renting for $1,000 a month, right? So he's got $500 a month left over to pay. That doesn't mean his rent is $500. His rent is still $1,000. Okay. The reason why is because if he didn't live there, he could rent the other side out for $1,000. Okay. But because his rent and where he's paying right now is $1,500, even renting it for $1,000 is still a $500 discount. So it's a great deal. So if you can find something like that, like do all the math on that. And if that makes sense, then buy the house and live in it. But if it doesn't make sense, then just continue to rent and then buy an investment property when you find a good investment property, and then rent that out to someone else while you're renting. It might seem silly, but you got to do the math and figure out, because a lot of times the deals aren't going to line up, because maybe you find a deal that's in, a bigger price, a bigger house. Maybe the deals in your neighborhood or where the area are for bigger houses where you wouldn't rent it. It doesn't make any sense. And, so you got to kind of weigh that out.
Great stuff. Great stuff. You good?
Thank you. Good.
All right. Go.
Hey, thanks for being here, John. Put my glasses so I can see you. So my question is really around the mindset that you have, this Bulldog mindset, and I really respect that you came such a far ways from where you were to where you are now. I really respect that. What I want to know is, first of all, what was the main thing or the key ingredient that got you to shift from where you were to get to where you are now, and what's 2 or 3 tips you can advise guys to help speed that along?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think there. I mean, the questions like that you can answer in like 1,000 different ways, right? So I'll just pick one way of answering it, which is to say the thing that got me there was basically, I'll sum it up as this: is acceptance, right? I think we're fighting against reality, most of us, right? Mm-hmm. And the period like where I was the fat, lazy, socially awkward, shy guy, what did I think about myself in my head at that point? I didn't think those things about myself in my head. I thought, you're just a little bit but you could arm wrestle someone and win. Yeah, well, you're stronger than those guys. Like if you lost fat, you'd be bigger than those other guys in the gym, right? Like this is what's going in my head. Oh yeah. No, you're not shy. Like you would go and talk to the girl, but doesn't look like that's the right one right now. Or, what I mean? Like I would make up all this bullshit in my head, all these excuses for, well, this guy got lucky with his business. If I got lucky and I got an opportunity with business, then I would be making $1 million too. Ha ha ha. Right. So all of this kind of bullshit that we tell ourselves, right? One day I was like, you know what? Fuck it, John. I literally took off all my clothes and I stood in front of the mirror and I'm like, you are fat. But I didn't say it necessarily in a judgmental way. I was like, you're like, it's like, let's just accept this reality. Okay. What is it? Like, I want to know what reality is, because the thing about if you're trying to get to a destination on a map, you have to know where you're starting. And I'm trying to navigate the map without knowing my starting place. Like I'm lying about where I'm starting. So of course I'm not getting to where I want to go. And so acceptance is so key. So I stood there naked in the mirror and I'm like, all right. Yeah, love handles, okay, got a pot belly, right? Like, all of these things that I'm pointing out, again, not in a judgmental way, but like, okay, this is just the honest objective. Like, let's just be objective with yourself. All right, are you shy? Like, are you afraid to go and talk to a girl? Are you afraid to do that? Okay. Yes. Okay. You're afraid. Okay, fine. All right. We'll check. We'll start there. All right. Are you lazy? Like, do you actually work as hard as you can every day? Like, okay, lazy, right? And so I'm making an account of all of these things, right? And then from that point, I can work on those things, and I can say, okay, you know what? Today we're gonna time to grab your nutsack, and you're gonna go up there. You see that girl over there? Yeah, you want to not be shy anymore? Fuck, go do it. Then make yourself do it, right? You want to stop being lazy, right? So that was kind of the key. I think acceptance is the key. Like, accept reality, and along with that, the other side of that same coin of acceptance is not just accepting the reality about yourself, but also about what happens in the situations, right? In this whole, good example is, I just had really bad timing, right? When this whole COVID-19 thing went down, what I had been doing for the last few years was I had a bunch of money. I was going to buy like a big commercial property. I was trying to save up like, $700,000-$800,000. So saving up all this money, and I had just a regular bank account. And, I was like, I've been doing this for 2 or 3 years because I thought I was going to spend it. And I was like, there's no point in investing it anywhere or putting it into a high yield account. And then finally, like this year in December, I was like, John, let's just put it into like a wealth fund account that make a conservative, makes like 4 or 5%, right? And so I take all this money, like $700,000 or so, and I put it into this wealth fund account, which normally, pretty conservative. It's like it's a diversified portfolio. I don't know if you've seen those robo investors, but it's a pretty, solid, like it's not it's not like I was betting options on the fucking market or trading commodities, right? Like it's pretty solid basic stuff, right? So I put it in there literally 2 weeks before the fucking COVID-19 and the biggest market drop in the last like 40 years, right? And so like in one day, I literally got cleaned for over $100,000, right? And I don't care how much money you make, like, unless you're like really up there, $100,000, that's a pretty big fucking kick in the stomach, right? But you know what? I just like, all right, accept the reality. That's what happened. Move on. Next day, I'm back to work. I'm just working on my business. I'm making YouTube videos. I'm not dwelling on it. I'm not crying about it. It sucks, but fuck it. It doesn't matter. That's what happened, right? And like the sooner you can accept reality, the faster that you can get back on the horse and get, like, the reason why people get stunted and they don't make the progress that they want to in life is because they get one punch in the stomach and they lay down on the floor for a week and they cry themselves to sleep every night. And it's like, fuck, you just got to like accept, like, okay, fuck, you got punched in the stomach. Big deal. All right, move on. It's over. Okay, done. And then you can keep on moving with your life. And once I kind of figured that out, that made things so like, because then because I get kicked all the time. But I was getting kicked and I would be down for a week, or I'd like ruin all the work that I made. Right? I'd be on a diet program before and I would fuck up one night. Right. And so I'm like, might as well eat all the cheesecake. Right. And then the next morning I wake up and I'm like, oh, what a fucking idiot. You're such a fucking idiot. Man, the only thing that will make me happy when I'm such a fucking idiot like this, I should eat a whole fucking bowl, an entire bag of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So then I'm chowing on a whole, and then it's a whole week of fucking binge eating because I feel like a shit instead of just accepting the reality that, which now, like if I fuck up, it's like, all right, you ate over your calories yesterday. Okay, big deal. Tomorrow starts a new day and you're back on the horse and you don't fuck up everything that you did before. But the biggest problem that I think people have is not succeeding. It's failing for too long. Right? Because you think about like a skyscraper, how long does it take to build a skyscraper? How many man hours, how much fucking material, and how many like months, years to build a skyscraper, and how many hours of work and labor. Yet you can destroy a skyscraper in literally 10 minutes. Like you can plant some explosives, you can use a wrecking ball. It takes literally minutes or seconds to destroy a skyscraper. And so the reason why we don't make it is not because we put in all this effort, but we don't stop our fuck ups. Like it's all about holding ground. It's all about like, not losing yards. Gaining yards is easy. Not losing yards is what makes the winner. And once I realized that concept, boom, that changed everything.
Awesome. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Good stuff. You're up next. Go ahead, buddy.
All right, man. Is Rollo here?
No, he left. I just decided to dedicate this to John. So if you don't have a question for John, we'll move on.
I know. Well, I'm gonna skip Bro's question. For John, I'm 19 and I'm studying finances, but I'm gonna graduate by the end of the year. And so far, we've given no lessons whatsoever on how to invest. So, what material would you recommend for someone who has absolutely no experience to like get caught up to speed?
Okay, so here's what I would say. Well, gosh, this is kind of hard. I mean, you need to educate yourself on finances. Obviously, a really long book that explains a lot of things is actually Tony Robbins' book, Money Master the Game. It's really long, but it explains a lot of things about what happens in the financial markets. I wouldn't necessarily follow all the advice in that book because it's geared towards a very, very conservative investment strategy that will not make you rich. There's a book right here that you should read. It's called The Millionaire Fast Lane. Read this book, okay, by MJ DeMarco. But as far as like, but let me kind of take things a little bit of a different direction. You should obviously learn about how the market works and options and puts and market makers and all of that stuff. And like I said, Money Master the Game will cover a lot of that. Millionaire Fastlane will cover more of the business aspect of it. But here's the thing, and this is what, you know, what I think is really critical, especially since you're 19. Do not invest yet. Well, when I say do not invest, what I mean by this is that it only makes sense to invest money when you have a lot of money. When you don't have a lot of money, and this is why, because let me tell you, the cost of figuring out the investment is an overhead cost. Okay, so let's say that, because people ask me all the time, John, how should I invest $1,000? Okay, and I'm like, okay, how long did it take you to make the $1,000? And it's like, okay, well, you know, some of the guys, let's say that you're making $50 an hour. Okay, if you're making $50 an hour, it costs you 20 hours to make the $1,000, right? So I'm like, well, what have you looked at so far? Oh, I looked at Bitcoin. I was looking at this. I read this book on this. I was reading this book on stocks. I'm looking at these stocks. I'm looking at these, and I'm like, how many hours have you invested trying to figure out what to invest $1,000 in? Oh, I don't know, maybe like 30 or 40 hours. And I'm like, that's stupid. Your return on your investment is already negative. Like, think about how stupid that is. You could have spent that 40 hours making $2,000 more. Do you know what kind of return that is? Right? That's a 300% return on your $1,000. So that's your answer. When you only have $1,000 to invest, guess what you invested in? You. You invested in you. You increase your skills. You increase your earning potential. You work more money. You use the money to make your earnings better. You start building a business. Even when you have $10,000, does it really make sense? Are you going to make a lot of money? Even if you buy Bitcoin at $1,000 and it goes up to $50,000, big fucking whoop. It doesn't change your life. It doesn't matter, right? Okay. So what you got to do is you got to take the money that you're making when you're making a little bit of money and you invest it all in you. You don't worry about index funds. You don't do S&P 500 ETFs or any of that shit. It doesn't matter. Because you're not going to make money, even with compounding interest. Okay, everyone should do this, right? This is a great exercise. I make every one of my students do this, which is I say, go look at a compounding interest calculator online, okay? There's 3 variables. There's time, okay? There's initial investment, and there's interest rate or return. Play with those numbers and see what your $1,000 invested or your $10,000 is going to be, how long it's going to take you to become a millionaire. Okay, with a 7 or 8% rate of return. It's a long fucking time. All right. So you want to start with $100,000 or $200,000. You don't, or even 20,000 is fine, like investing in real estate. But you don't want to start with a little bit of amount of money. Instead, you take the little bit amount of money and you invest in yourself so you can make more money. Just like I was telling the other guy, get a better job. You're making $80,000 a year. Invest some money in a resume writing service, right? Get to the point where you're making $100,000. That's a better investment. Now you've got some money and now you've got some capital to invest, and now it makes sense. But if you're playing around trying to figure out where do I invest $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, fuck, it's a waste of time. You'll waste your time. Just build a business. Spend the time building a business. Spend the time making more money. And when you have money, then you Then you start to look at, if you're going to try to figure out where you're going to invest $100,000, okay, that's worth doing some research. That's worth figuring some shit out, because if you invest $100,000 right, you can make some serious money off of that. Or $1 million, you can make some serious money off of that. But you're not going to make shit off of $1,000 or $10,000 or $20,000. I don't care. You just have to fucking compound for 50 years in order and look at it. I mean, I'm not lying. Look at a compound interest calculator and figure out what your actual rate of return is going to be. Because people say, oh, S&P 500, the stock market returns 7% per year, on average well, forget about capital gains taxes in that. And then even at 7.5% per year, shit, that it's not going to be much. You're not going to be rich. Okay. You got to have some other plan. So with that said, what my vehicle of investment choice is always real estate. Leverage real estate has the highest return, better than anything else, with the highest level of security if you do it right. So research that. That's what I would look at. There's a book I'll recommend. It's called The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. He's the guy that started the Keller Williams real estate agency or franchise. That's probably the best book that I have found on real estate investing. But
can you repeat the name? The Millionaire Real Estate?
The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller.
Okay.
And that's got some charts in there that will show you exactly what's going to happen as far as over time, how your investments will grow over time. So.
All right, man. Thank you so much. One last question, a quick one. I've been tinkering with Forex trading. I'm using a demo account for 2 months now. Would you recommend me keeping up on that, or should I cut it out?
Yeah, stop that shit. It's a waste of time. It's just a waste for a couple of reasons. Why, right? And it's even not good to be invested in the market at all, because it fucks you up, because you lose your concentration. You need to be working on business shit. You need to be building a business, right? Forex trading is not a business. It's something you have to do every day. It's a job. Even if you get good at it and you can make some money, believe me, I traded options. I traded complex options, iron condors, all kinds of shit for a while. And I one day I was looking, I was like, you know what? Because here's the thing, okay? If you're going to trade options or even Forex, anytime you're trading a leverage asset, it's just like poker. It's the exact same skill set as poker, right? And a good poker player knows that at any point in time, you never put more than 2% of your bankroll on the table. Same thing with trades. If you're an option trader or a Forex trader, you never put more than 2% of your entire bankroll into a trade. Well, what does that mean? That means you got to have 50 active trades going if you want to capitalize on all of your assets. If you're managing 50 active trades, it's a fucking job. So either you're doing a job and you're managing 50 active trades, all right, at a time in order to really get your full return on your money. Otherwise, it's going to be going to waste. Or you're playing a risky fucking game, because if you're putting more than 2%, there's a thing called variance. It exists in poker, it exists in the market. Okay, variance means that the reason why poker players, professional poker players that don't go broke, only put 2% of their bankroll at any time on the table into a buy-in, okay, is because variance can hit you so hard that you can play perfect poker and you lose your entire buy-in, and then you lose it again, and 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 you lose it again. But it's not likely to happen 50 times. It could happen, but it's a very, very small, it's an astronomical odds. That's why it's safe to put 2% at any given time, because you're going to beat variance. But if you put 10% of your bankroll into a poker game, a buy-in, it's very likely that 10 times, regardless of how good you play, you just get shitty luck. Your first hand is kings against someone else's aces, and you go all in and you lose your money. It can happen 10 fucking times in a row, and you're done. And the exact same principle applies to the markets, and that's why smart options traders and leveraged asset traders, commodities, future Forex traders, that they only put 2% on their bankroll. So they have to be active traders and trading all day long. So it's just a fucking waste of time. It's a waste of effort. And at the end of the day, if that hasn't convinced you already, it's the reason why I stopped playing poker and trading options is because it's completely pointless. It adds no value to the world. And you feel like shit, because what are you doing? You're just swapping around money. You're just taking someone else's money. It's not actually creating value. So do something that creates value, because what's going to be more important in life than money is fulfillment.
Yep. Great stuff.
Herman, thank you so much.
Good stuff. Let's go to, go ahead.
So my question was for both of you, Johns. was how, as you said earlier, John, when you earn only like a little money, you need to invest it in yourself before you're able to invest in like real estate. My question was, how did you manage to make enough money to then invest in real estate?
So good question. So for me, what it was initially was getting a high paid job as a software developer, right? Developing a high paying skill, right? As Dan Locke would say, like a money making skill, right? Which he's right on that. It's true. Like you have to, if you develop a skill that and anyone can do it, right? So, like software developers is just a great one because you can literally go to a coding boot camp, pay $10,000, spend 3 to 6 months of your life and make $100,000 a year. It's that fucking easy. Now, when I say it's that fucking easy, what I mean is it's that fucking simple. It's not easy, right? So, people are like, oh yeah, you can't become a coder in 3 months or 6 months. Bull fucking shit, you can't. You absolutely can, but you're gonna fucking work your ass off because I'll tell you what, if you go to like one of those code camps, maybe 90% of people from a code camp don't get a job afterwards, but the top 10% do. They always do. So if you're willing to be in the top 10%, you're going to fucking do it. So you just have to commit and say, I'm going to be in the top 10%. I'm going to fucking do whatever it takes to be in the top 10%. All right. And most people aren't going to be fighting that hard. If you're fighting that hard and you're in the top 10%, you're going to get a job. You're going to get a 6-figure job. You're going to be golden. You're going to be set. All right. Then you're going to have enough money to be able to invest, right? You could do something else. You could there's other high paying skills like being a copywriter. You could learn copywriting and teach yourself that, and you can make some pretty damn good money doing that. Another one would be a salesperson, right? You can do sales. If you do sales, you can make a lot of money doing sales. There's a lot of different skills that you could develop, but develop a high paying skill so you can make a lot of money first. The other alternative path, if you don't want to go down that road, it's a little bit longer, but you should go down this path anyway, right? At some point, even if you get a high paying skill, you should still build a business. Okay, because the business is ultimately going to make you rich. Because it doesn't matter, right? When I was the top paid software developer at the top of my game, I was making $200,000 a year, but that's it. Maybe some obscure New York developer who's a quant working for a financial industry might make $400,000 or $500,000, or someone who's 30 years in the tech industry and 10 years at Facebook, maybe high up they can make more than that. But you're basically capped at some point, right? A couple $100,000, that's it. All right, and that's nothing. That's chump change compared to what you could be making, right? And so, but if you build a business, you can make $1 million a year, right? It's not unheard of at all. Like that's probably par for the game for most business owners that are successful to make something like that. So that's the other path you could take, is you could say, okay, I'm not going to invest in the careers and the skills. I'm not going to become a software developer or copywriter or any of those high paying. Instead, I'm just going to build a business, and I'm going to be dirt poor, and it's going to take me 5 years, and I'm going to be really, I'm not going to have a lot of money, but in 10 years from now, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to be a millionaire, and I'm going to be making like $1 million a year. Okay. Because in 10 years, if you build a business, 10 years, that can happen. All right. That's definitely a reasonable thing of expectation of goal to achieve. And then you'll have a lot of money and you can invest and you'll be set. But either way you go, even if you go the high skill career way, you should still build a business on the side, because at some point you're going to hit that point where your career flattens off, and you're going to, and at that point you want your business to be growing. And then, your business is doing just as well as your career is, and you drop the career part and you just keep on going with the business.
Great. I just have 2 quick questions. Then, do you remember when you first invested, how much money were you making a year, if I may ask?
Yeah. So let me think about, okay, the very first investment I made was when I was 19, and I bought a house to live in. Now, I didn't know about investing. I just didn't want to pay rent. I was not a savvy investor. I was just a dumbass. Okay. But I made a lucky, smart decision, right? And at that point, I was working for Hewlett Packard as a contractor, making $25 an hour. And I bought a house for $68,000. I just sold that house just last year for $160,000. So that was the very first one that I, but again, I wasn't really trying to invest. I was just buying a house. And then a few years later, I got a job at, I think actually back in Boise, Idaho, at HP. and I was making around, I think, $80,000 or $90,000 a year. And I bought a townhouse, a 3-bedroom townhouse, 2-car garage, 2.5 baths for $110,000. And I put 10% down on that property, so $11,000.
Okay, and one last question. Is there, do you have videos or books? I mean, videos either of you or of other people, or books about how to build a business that you would recommend?
Yeah. So let's see. I've got a series on my YouTube channel. I think you can find on my page that's like how to build a business. That's kind of a free series if you wanted to look at that. But as far as books, there's a lot of good books. I'm trying to think about which one. So Millionaire Fastlane, for sure. I've already mentioned that, but that one is good. It covers a lot of that. I'm trying to think what other major ones that, like, from the beginning. There's a lot of good business books. Before starting any business, I would read E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. That's a really good book.
Sorry, what's the title?
It's called E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Trying to think of some of the other.
I got somebody posting in the chat. Great.
Yeah, there's another book that's like, what's the? You know what? Build a Business, Not a Job by David Finkel. That one's probably worth it for starting out. And then this one here, actually, a 1-page marketing plan. This is by Alan Dibb. This is probably the best book on marketing that explains everything you need to know in a very short format here. And this is the fundamental key of building a business, right? You need 3 things. You need traffic, you need a marketing or sales process, and you need a product. And that's it. You need those 3 things. So this kind of goes through that whole thing. But those are the ones that I think I would start with for sure.
Thanks a lot. And
Good
thank
stuff. Good stuff. Thanks. Okay, let's go. And we're going to cap it at, well, so we got then Rick, then and then so that'll cap it for us there, gents. Go ahead.
Hey, just want to say thank you. You already answered my question, man. So go ahead, move on to the next guy.
Good stuff. Go.
All right, I have a quick question. So, as you already know, due to Corona Chan, the real estate market is going to be a pretty solid vehicle for investing really, really soon.
Right.
Now, I sort of want to get into it, but I want to get into it based off of REITs. I'm looking to purchase a few sort of index funds that can track a high number of REITs. Ideally, my preference would be for the high dividend yield focus types, the ones that are pretty good at giving the FFO to the investors and, not so much on the growth side. Do you have any sort of solid recommendations that you think are good ones?
I'm really not a big fan of REITs, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
The biggest reason why is because REITs are essentially syndication deals, right? And the returns that you get on a REIT they're not better than returns that you get from blue chip companies that pay dividends in general, right? I mean, when the market's doing good, sure, the REIT goes up and it pays a dividend. But when you look at the overall profit, so think of it this way, right? I'm trying to think of a good example here, but okay, here's a good example, right? Which would you rather do? Would you rather invest in the market with money in your 401k or just money that you have in your bank account?
401k.
Why?
Because that's already been allocated away for savings.
Well, it's because you're right that 401k is better, but the reason why is because you don't have to pay taxes on money that you put into your 401k. So it's pre-tax money, and you don't have to pay taxes on money that you make in your 401k. So, that's right. Yeah. So so the taxes that you pay on the regular income that you invest in real estate or in the market or anything, those have an overhead to them, right? The tax is an overhead, right? If you make $100,000, you only get $70,000 of investing power.
Quick question then. Mm-hmm. So I'm in Canada, so we have two versions. We have a RRSP, which I think is like your 401k, where you have to pay taxes when you pull the money out. And then there's a TFSA account, which completely tax free. You don't need to worry about it whatsoever. What if you're putting the money into the TFSA account where you don't have to worry about taxes whatsoever? How about then?
It won't matter for this case because I'm just using that as an example, right? As something that has overhead, right? Like your regular cash that you buy, if you have $100,000, but you have to pay 30% taxes or 40% taxes on it, you only have a buying power of 60.
Yeah.
That's what an REIT is like in real estate because you have overhead. So if you buy a property by yourself, you get there's no overhead to it, right? The only overhead you might have is paying a property management company to manage the property, which I highly recommend. Okay. Other than that, you're getting all the money from that. So you're getting all the profit. When you have an REIT, okay, you've got their compliance with the what is it, the stock securities, right? They have to maintain their securities license. They need an accountant. Okay, they need a bookkeeper. They need a property manager. They need a financial analyst and a controller and all of these different roles. So instead of all the profit going to you, right, it's going to pay all these people because before they cut a dividend check, you can guarantee the fund manager is going to get paid first. His accountant's going to get paid. His bookkeeper is going to get paid. Every single person is going to get paid. You're the last person to get paid, right? And that's a danger. Like when when the market's doing really good, the REIT, it appears to be a really good investment. You get a high dividend, maybe you get 8, 9%, 10% dividend. Okay. And the price of the value of the stock goes up. So you're double dipping there. But when it goes bad and the money starts to run out and you don't get any of that money, or you get a very small amount of that money. So you get a lower return on that compared to, like, if real estate is doing really good, right, you would always do better buying and owning your own properties than going through an REIT. Not only that, but you don't get the tax advantages. Okay, so there's 4 ways that you make money in real estate. Okay, the first way is cash flow. Okay, so that's when you get money from the rent and it's over the cost of the mortgage and the taxes, insurance and everything, and it goes in your pocket. So you make some money there. The second way that you make money in real estate is the principal pay down on the mortgage. So you've got a mortgage, right? And you don't see the money, but every month when you pay your mortgage payment, you're paying down the principal, so you owe less money. So you're making some money there. It's like money in the bank. All right. The third way you make money in real estate, at least in the U.S., I think Canada probably has something similar, is depreciation, right? Which means that you depreciate the asset. In the U.S., it's over 27.5 years of the value of the property, and that's just a write-off, a deduction on your taxes. Okay, so you make money from that because it's a write-off of that amount. But the fourth way you make money is through leveraged appreciation. Okay, so that's the money that you make when you put 10% down, for example, and the property goes up, but you're borrowing 90% from the bank. Okay, now the REIT takes advantage of making some of the money in some of those ways, but there's a huge overhead. You're not making that directly. You're missing out on all that. Like if you invest in an REIT, the only way you're making money is the dividend. That's all you're getting. And the stock price going up, I guess you could say. Stock price going up and the dividend, okay? Now, the difference here also is that, again, I'm talking U.S., but I'm sure that there's probably similar rules or things in Canada. But at least in the U.S., you can do what's called a 1031 exchange and never pay taxes on the property, right? So you can literally sell the property and move it into another property and not pay taxes. I don't know exactly how it works in Canada, but there's probably something similar. There's usually something equivalent, okay? With an REIT, if you get a dividend check, guess what happens? Capital gains taxes, right? You're going to pay that, right? You don't get to escape that. So you're going to be taxed. So whatever your return is, it's cut down by the tax rate, which is fairly high in Canada. So anyway, so what it comes down to is that whatever, if you feel like the market's going to do good and there's going to be a lot of good deals, it will be better for you to buy properties yourself than an REIT because you're going to get a better version of the upside. And then if things do go down, typically if you own a property yourself, even in a down market, you're going to make money, right? So for instance, remember I told you that 2008 story where my property value got cut in half? Okay, that was a perfect example. Guess what? I was laughing when the property values got cut in half because I was still getting the rent check. My mortgage still costs the same, but the guys that were holding REITs, they were not fucking laughing. Those guys were crying, right?
But why though?
because those RITs are a function of the actual value of the property. Those RITs had a smaller return because the prices went down in those properties of their holdings. So they basically, because when someone forms an RIT, right, what they're doing is they're creating big syndication deals, and they're saying, okay, we're going to buy up all these Walgreens, and we're going to get, we're diversifying it this way, right? And our plan is to hold these properties for 5 years, and then we're going to exit these properties. Like, they have some kind of a holding plan. And so in their 5-year period, if the properties go down, they still got to exit on those properties, and they cut their losses, and so they take a loss on those properties. Whereas if you're the individual investor, you're like, fuck it, I don't need to sell the property. I got rent coming in, my mortgage hasn't changed. I'll hold on to it for 20 years. It doesn't fucking matter. I'm in it for the long haul. Whereas the REITs need to make money now, because that's what they got all kinds of bills that are burning. They've got staff. They've got all this stuff that when they're not making money on these deals, and they're counting on making money from the deals appreciating, that they're burning that money, and that's why they lose money. I mean, look historically at REITs and look and see, when the markets go down, do REITs go down? And they absolutely do, right? Whereas if you own a property yourself and you have a 30-year fixed mortgage, it doesn't matter.
Okay. So next question would be, a lot of the quant guys that I work with, they basically, they haven't said it directly, but they basically confirmed that, yep, mortgage, real estate will be a phenomenal way to make money in the near future, especially the moment the stupid thing blows over. I'm 23, I don't have a lot of cash yet, but I do want to get a taste of the pie, right? Because, hey, why not, right? So obviously I'm looking, I want to go for the buy and hold type of guys, not so much the buy and sell like every 5 years type of bullshit. What would you recommend for a 23-year-old dude right now who doesn't have much cash yet, but he wants the taste of that real estate?
Okay, think about this, right? I understand where you're coming from, and I understand why you would want a taste of it, but how much cash do you have to invest? Or will you have to invest, you think?
Right now, I'd say every single month that passes, you could assume I get like almost $2,500 extra. Right now I'm sitting at about 7,000.
Okay, so let's say that you've got 15,000 to invest in the market, and let's say you just picked the most slamming REIT, like this fucking thing blows the fuck up, 300% return in 1 year. Okay, so your 15,000 becomes 45,000. Big whoop. What are you going to do with 45,000? Are you going to be buying a fucking Tesla? Are you going to be popping bottles in the club? Are you going to be living off of that for the rest of your life? No, it doesn't matter. Again, I'm not trying to discourage you in any way. I'm just saying, use the money that you're making now. Don't waste the time. And guess what you're going to be doing if you buy an REIT? Okay, instead of working on your business or whatever, every day you're going to be like, oh, let's see how at the REIT, like you're going to tell yourself, don't do it.
No. Trust me. I work at a hedge fund. I know all the bullshit finance tricks. So
Okay. So you're not
my
gonna
plan
look
was
at
just,
it.
hey, here's some extra cash. I already have my emergency fund set up. Here's some extra cash. Can I put it somewhere to sort of diversify the portfolio or something a little bit and continue working on my primary business and my active time? But here's some passive stuff that's being done for me on the side, right? Like there's the active time and then there's the passive time, right?
Don't worry about it right now. Not until you have enough money. Now, where you could put the 15 grand, okay, and where it would make a big difference is buying a property, okay? Because if you put that down and your leverage, you put 20% down on a property or 10% down on a property, right? And it's a screaming deal. And when I say screaming, like this is where okay, and this is why it's so different, okay? Because I want you to understand the difference, because I'm not just trying to discourage you here, but let's say that you put $15,000 down on a $150,000 property, but it really is worth like $300,000. It got cut in half. It could get cut in half. Okay, so you buy this fucker and you only put 15,000 into it.
But you've already made 100% return because it's going to go back to normal anyway.
Well, no, you've made more than 100%.
Oh yeah.
Right. You only put 15,000. The bank gave you the rest of the money. This is why real estate investing is so good. The bank gave you the rest of the money. So let's say that it goes back to just its regular value in the next 4 years. So now it's worth 300,000. So you sell the fucker, right? Okay. And how much money do you get out of that? Okay. Now we're talking some good money. Okay. Now we're talking $285,000 profit off of your $15,000 investment. Okay, there you're popping bottles in the club. Okay, there, I mean, you're not rich, but now you've got some scratch. Now you can really invest. Now you want to put some money in the RIT. I still don't like it, but the return on that is actually meaningful amount of money, like, you know, not just a trivial amount. I would take and roll that into some more real estate and buy more real estate and do that again, especially if the market's, you know, if you can, you know, keep on doing something like that. I mean, obviously those opportunities will come along all the time, but that's what you want to invest in and wait for. And that's why that's so good, right? That's a huge, huge difference. Again, like I said, everyone at the end of this, you should go and play with a compound interest calculator. Like, seriously, it's sobering, because this is one of the homeworks I have in my Bulldog Mindset membership is I have, like, I think it's like homework 3 is I'm like, okay, come up with your plan. How much money do you need to retire? Okay. And then I say, all right, how much money are you saving per month? Okay. And then I say, where are you investing your money? I don't even care where the fuck it is and whatever you think your return is. You think you're getting an 8% return, 10% return, whatever. It's probably bullshit. You're probably getting a lot less return than you think, but I'll take it. All right. Then I want you to punch all those numbers into the compound interest calculator. Okay. And I want you to see how many years it will take you before you will retire, before you'll be a millionaire even. And most people are like, that's the saddest homework ever. Because people are like, they're like, fuck, there's no way I'm never going to do it. And I'm like, how long? 40 years.
No, that's right.
So you got to fucking build a business. You got to make some more money.
I hear what you're saying on that one.
Yeah.
So right now I have basically $0 and 0 cents in real estate. All the money that I have is just in basic equities. Stock market's going down. Thank God. Now I can put more cash in there because it's going to go up anyways, right?
I wouldn't put more cash in there, man.
You get what I'm saying.
Yeah, but put it in real estate.
Yeah. So the question that I had is, okay, let's say like 20, maybe 30 years from now, right? What's like how much should real estate count for the overall percentage of your portfolio?
If you're me, it's 100%, aside 100%. From cash, because there's no reason why not. There's literally no reason why not. Like, I mean, you tell me what's going to happen. I mean, literally, this is what I tell my coaching clients when I'm helping them within real estate investment. I'm like, okay, this is the plan. You buy these properties. And they're like, what happens, John, if all of the tenants stop paying rent at the same time? And I'm like, that could never happen. How could that happen? You got 10 units and all 10 of them are going to not pay rent? And bam, it happened, right? Just now. Right? Like, well, this is the only time that it would happen. And it still didn't happen. Even with this going on, you know how much of my rents I collected from like 24 tenants? I think I collected all but one. So they all pay. Now, next month, maybe half of them will pay, but still, it's an unlikely event. So that's why it's like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? If I buy smart in real estate, what's the worst thing that could happen? There's not much, especially even if you have a loan on it, a 30-year fixed loan. If it's 30 years fixed and your payment is fixed, really the worst thing that could happen to you is deflation, not inflation, deflation. Because real estate is a hedge against inflation, by the way. We're going to get some hyper fucking inflation coming here, all right? It's coming, right? You don't just invent $3 trillion and not have inflation. All right? It's coming. So real estate is the hedge against, the ultimate hedge against inflation, right? Deflation is the only thing that can hurt you when you have a mortgage, which never happens. So, I mean, maybe it'll happen. I don't see that ever happening with the quantitative easing and everything. So anyway, there's really no risk. Like what is going to happen to me from a real estate perspective? I mean, literally, like if a meteor hits the earth and destroys, you know, and my insurance doesn't cover it because they don't cover acts of God, then I suppose I would be somewhat fucked in that case. But if I'm leveraged, really the bank's fucked more than I am. You see what I'm saying? So again, it's not, you know, you're just, to me, I don't see any risk. You know, again, like I've looked at this 100 different ways, and you tell me the flaw. You tell me why I shouldn't have 100% of my investment in real estate, like what the risk is. I mean, obviously, some money in cash, but I'm just saying, like that's.
Let him talk.
Oh, okay.
Listen to men that know more than you.
I'm not accusing you of that. I'm just saying like you tell me if you have a hole in it, let me know. Otherwise, that's what I would advise. So as crazy as it sounds, but
a lot of the hedge funds here have this mentality of diversifying just for the hell of it, right? So it's like, okay, well, why haven't they done this specific thing? Why are they diversifying just for the hell of it? Is there something that they know that I don't? That's what I want to get to the bottom of.
So here's the key. This is why. Because what I'm telling you doesn't scale, not to the level. If you have $1 billion to invest, you can't buy real estate, because what are you going to buy? Right? Because you certainly don't want to buy single family houses, because it will take you the rest of your life to spend $1 billion leveraged on single family houses, right? It will take you hundreds of years literally to make all those deals. Okay. You could buy commercial real estate, and you could buy even $50, $100 million. But those, like, when you start to get to the $50, $100 million apartment complexes, like kind of Grant Cardone-ish, right? You start to run some other risks there, because then there are like significant capital risks of the location, right? When you're diversified in real estate as far as different locations, different buildings, right? But so for a hedge fund, it's a little bit of a different type of scenario. And also remember, real estate returns, when we're investing in real estate, like if you're really investing in real estate the way that I do, I'm looking at like 20-year horizon for investments. Hedge funds aren't looking that far out, right? So they need to make sure, because what happens if you're running a hedge fund, and I mean, just like what's happening now, right? And you know that if you just play this really good investment, that over time, even if it goes down, that it's going to perform like real estate does, right? Because the value of real estate on paper can get cut in half in 1 year. It can happen, right? It happened in 2008. Okay, what's going to happen is all your investors are going to freak the fuck out, and they're going to pull their money, and you're going to be done. So you have to you have to make sure that, Ray Dalio's all-weather portfolio, you have to make sure that no matter what happens, that you don't lose a lot of money. Like, I understand the mentality there, but for you as an individual trying to make as much profit as possible, because you have control, that's the other aspect that I think is so critical, is when you own a rental property, you have control over the profitability of that, just like owning a company, right? Whereas when you put your money into the market or something, you're not in control of that. Everything is completely outside of your control. Yes, there's some factors outside of your control when you own a property, because you can't control what the housing prices do or what the renter does, but you can fix it up, you can market it better, you can add amenity. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do to improve that investment yourself, so you've got the control over it. So anyway, that's kind of how I look at it.
Good shit.
Right.
Good questions.
Let's digest.
Let's go to Thor. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. John, excellent talk tonight. I'm a fan. I wasn't aware of you before. Hey, my question hopefully is pretty brief. I'm in my late 50s. I own 5 single-unit homes. They're all paid off. That is they're all on cash flow right now. What I'm looking at, and I want your opinion on, is taking 1 or 2 of those houses, having them held in LLC, and then having the LLC held in a self-directed IRA to avoid tax deferral. Now, I don't know enough about it yet. I'm still doing my research, so I'd like your opinion, but it kind of looks like if you see asset wallets in the self-directed IRA, you can avoid capital gains. Is that true?
It is true. So this is the point where I have to make a disclaimer and say, I'm not a lawyer or an accountant or CPA, and this is not financial advice.
Right.
Everything I've said so far, by the way, is just I'm just some Yahoo on the internet.
Just for fun.
Yeah, just for fun. Just they're all hypotheticals. So, so here's what I actually do have: a self-directed 401k, and I have an investment in that, and it is quite a great deal, because you can literally, if you do a self-managed 401k, you can direct the investment into just about anything you want, including real estate, right? And the beauty of that is that it is completely tax-free. If you have, well, it depends on the structure. At least, again, this is you'll have to check with your lawyer and accountant and all, disclaimer. But basically, if it's a self-directed 401k, there's a thing called UBIT, and you don't have to pay UBIT, right? So UBIT is basically this, like if you use leverage to buy a property, an investment, and you make money, I think in an IRA, you do have to pay this UBIT tax, which is the extra money that you made off of the leveraged investment, and you have to pay taxes, capital gains on that part, right? But with a 401k self-directed, at least my understanding is that you don't have to pay that. So that's the best vehicle for that. Now, here's the problem with it, and I think it's the same problem with IRAs and any kind of self-directed retirement account, is you cannot self-deal.
You cannot do, I forget exactly the terminology they use, but essentially you would not be able to take your existing properties, as far as I know, but you can check with, accountant or lawyer. I don't believe that you can sell your own properties to your own your own 401k entity, because you're connected to it. So it's a self deal. It's like it's basically, a tax avoidance strategy on that.
Yeah.
But you could take money that you already have in the IRA or put money in the IRA, and then you could use that money to buy a different deal.
Okay.
And, right. That's how I understand it. I've got see if I got the book on it. There's the best guy I have, my accountant. Let me see.
Do you do the same thing? Are they all owned by LLC or trust?
It is, well, okay. So I have, let me give you, okay. So Mark Kohler is the guy that he's like,
I'm familiar. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He's the guy that I use. He's a little expensive, but I mean, he knows his shit better than pretty much any other accountant and CPA guy. So, and he knows marketing as well in business. So, but for what I have structured is I have each one of my properties is owned by an LLC. And then all of those LLCs are owned by another LLC, which is a holding company. And then that holding company is owned by my trust, which is an irrevocable trust.
That's how I'm set up right now.
Or sorry, revocable trust, right? So yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I've got that set up. And then I've got my 401k, which is owned by my business, like as my 401k plan. And then from there, I have ownership into real estate there as well.
Seems like there's some decent advantages to doing that for sure.
Yeah, it's sort of like a, well, I was never a big fan of 401ks because my philosophy was always, hey, I don't care about money when I'm, 67, because I want to make the money now. Like if I need money when I'm 67, I fucked up somewhere along the line, and I don't like parachutes. I don't want a backup plan. I want to just fucking take all the money I can and use that to make money now. I don't care if I have to pay taxes on it now. So that's always been my kind of strategy, like go all in on business and making money. But then actually Mark convinced me, because he said, you know what? He said, John, because I was setting up with him some protection strategies, asset protection strategies, because that's my biggest fear is, when you have a decent net worth, like you could get fucked over if you don't have a good asset protection strategy. And he was like, as much as we set this up, you can still, like, there's all these situations where you could still technically lose everything if you get sued, and like there's always ways. He said, though, there is one way that you cannot lose, and he's like, whatever's in your 401k, if you own a bunch of real estate in your 401k, he's like, no one, no matter what, can ever touch that. So even if you get wiped out, so then that's what convinced me. Then I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like that convinces me to do it, to put a little bit in there just in case. Yeah. It's like my oh shit plan. So
same here. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Appreciate it.
You're up. Go. Down to our last four.
My question is about real estate in the terms of like sectioning off buying and fixing up houses. So you said earlier that you treat buying a house and then fixing it up as investing and then another business. Could you elaborate more on that?
Sure. So, okay. So it's the same way that like I wear the renter and the investor hat, right? So when a lot of people kind of group the whole thing together, right? But let's say, here, let me give you an example, and I think that'll be simple. Let's take our $100,000 house, our famous $100,000 house, okay? So let's say that I buy it for $50,000, okay, because it needs some work. So I put $20K of work into it, okay? So I'm in it for 70, and now it's worth 100. Now I have two options. I can sell it, okay? Or I can sell it to myself, right? So really there's one option, right? That's the only, that's it. And that's why I divide it, right? Because essentially, right, like there's an illusion of two options, right? If you sell it and flip it and you make the 30K, okay, I mean, obviously you're going to pay short-term capital gains taxes on it. So there's a bit of a difference in that case. But you've made as soon as you bought the property under market and put the money in, the equity value of of that property became $100,000. You can realize the equity immediately by selling it and taking 30K, or you can hold on to the property. Essentially what that means is you're selling it to yourself. Okay. But you're not selling to yourself for $70,000. You're selling it for 100 because there's 30K of equity that is there that you're giving to yourself as the investor, right? So you see what I'm saying? So that's why I like to separate those two activities, because people are like, oh, I got such a great deal on this property and I fixed it up and I bought it way under market. You know, I think Meet Kevin likes it. If you know him, he talks about wedge deals.
That's basically what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and he's smart to do wedge deals, because he's doing both things at the same time. But understand, every time he gets a wedge deal, right, he could literally just take the property and flip it and make money on there, because all he's doing is he's creating equity first. He's doing work to make money, and then he's leaving the money in the property and not taking it out of the property. There's nothing magical there. And that's why, even though what he's saying like kind of makes sense for people starting out, I don't even fuck with that. Why? Because what ends up happening, right, when you look at the deal at the end of the situation, is that you have to account for all the time you spent fixing up the property and the time value of money and all of that stuff, because it's a separate business operation. And so when you look at the return on the investment, it's not as good as what you think it is, because there's two separate transactions. The one transaction is the value you created and the work that you put in and the hours you put in fixing up the property to increase the value. And then the second transaction is you buying the property as an investment and holding on to that property. So if you separate them out into two different things, again, just like I separate the renter versus buying a home as an investor, then you'll make smarter choices, because you'll understand that they're two really separate transactions that you could combine together if you want to, but both of those transactions should make sense. If a lot of times the reason why people fuck up in real estate is because they only look at one of those and they group them together. And it doesn't make sense, because maybe it does make sense to, like, okay, so let's say that you buy a wedge deal and you fix it up. All right. Well, maybe it's not really a good cash flowing property. Like maybe the value of that property, it would not be an investment, like whatever the market value is. If you wouldn't buy it as an investor, then you should sell it and take the money, take that equity that you got, rather than holding on to it. Holding on to it's stupid, because you could just take the money, you could invest it in something where it does make sense, where you're getting a better investment.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was a very helpful answer. Thank you.
Good. All right. Last three. Go. John, you okay?
Oh, yeah. I'm good. I'm just sweating under the lights here.
You're killing it, buddy. Burning like 5,000 calories right now. Go ahead.
All right. So I'm 21. I'm in my 4th year of getting my mechanical engineering degree. I've got 1 more year left. I do very well in school. I think my biggest, my engineering mind has always been, I like to be able to plan things out ahead of time. And that's usually how I make the best designs and how I do well in my job and things like that. The struggle I face now is typically, I don't know if I know enough of what I want to exactly know. So it's really hard for me to plan, because I don't know if I know enough of what direction I go. I know I love doing and creating things and designing and engineering and getting down technical and stuff like that. But I sometimes find myself paralyzed because I can't, I worry about spending too much time and then discovering, oh, this wasn't what I wanted to do. And then I fear, then I also fear not doing anything at all.
Yep.
And then I fear almost like fear of missing out too. And it's like, should I be doing? So there's I've got a lot of things going for me. I won't have any debt when I graduate. My college is pretty much completely covered. So I know I have a lot of potential, but that kind of stresses me out a little bit, because then it's like, I don't want to blow it. Like I know I'm young right now, and I know I have a lot of potential. I'm about to lose my video. Sorry. I know I have a lot of ways I could go. I'm worried about kind of screwing it up in a way.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I get exactly where you're coming from here. So good news is I have a really, really simple, easy answer for you. So first of all, I'm going to say, read a book by Cal Newport. It's called So Good They Can't Ignore You. It's all about whether you should follow your passion or not. short answer, no, do not follow your passion. Okay. But it's got some really salient points in there that address exactly the kind of question that you're asking here. And I'll kind of give you my version of my answer, which is, it's two things. I'll lay a framework here, which is this. I have a real rule called the 5-year rule. Okay. What it means is that anything you want to become good at, right, that you want to achieve success at, minimum 5-year commitment, right? And so you can almost divide your life up into 5-year blocks. Okay. You want to become good with girls? 5 years, buddy. You want to build a business? 5 years. You want to get awesome physique? 5 years. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't have any level of success in 2 or 3 years. A lot of times you're going to have some, but you have to be willing to commit to something for 5 years. See, the reason why most people waste their whole fucking life is because they won't ever commit for a long enough period of time, because just about anything you choose in life, you can be successful at if you're willing to commit. 100% committing is like the key to life. If you commit, you're going to be successful, but most people don't stick it. They don't commit long enough. So here's what I would say. Okay. It doesn't matter what you pick. All right. Because of a couple of things. One of them, and probably the most important thing, is whatever that you pick, all right, it doesn't matter if it's the thing that you love in the world, okay? Believe me, I lived in a fucking cubicle, okay, and I had to work for someone else, and I've had some miserable job position. And I remember in the cubicle thinking, wouldn't it be so great if I could just write blog posts for a living and I didn't have to work for someone else? Wouldn't that be awesome? And then, and then I started doing that, right? And then I was like, oh, what if I could just make YouTube videos? If I could just have enough of a popular YouTube video, I could just make videos and just talk about my opinions all day, or maybe coach people for $1,000, $1,500 an hour. And that would be great. And there are literally days that I wake up and I'm like, oh, damn it. I don't want to make a video. I don't want to get on the phone and have someone pay me $1,500 to talk to them for an hour. I don't feel like doing that. And I'm like, are you fucking mental, John? What the fuck is wrong with you? And the answer is, no, there's nothing wrong with us. The answer is that no matter what you do, okay, if you're a fucking porn star, all right, one day you're going to wake up, like, it's going to be great. You're a porn star, right? You're like, oh, this life is great. It's awesome. You know, all I do is fuck. That's it. And then one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, fuck, I do not feel like going into work today. Oh man, do I really have to fuck these girls today? Like that will, I guarantee you that would happen. I guarantee you that's the truth. Okay. I know this. So the reason why I'm saying that is because it doesn't there's no magic thing that you're going to do. Okay. You just need to pick something. And what happens is that you will bring the passion. And as you become skilled at a thing, it will bring you something better than joy, which is fulfillment. Because as you are, any musician will tell you, this truth of it, or highly skilled athlete, anyone who's really skilled at their job. So don't worry so much about picking the right thing. Just pick something. And then the second part of this is this. So what if you fail? Because see, if your whole goal, if your whole setup in life is I need to pick the right thing so I can go to school, get good grades, get a good job, put money in my 401k and do all these check how you're supposed to live your life, then you're going to be playing it way too fucking safe. Because what your goal should be is I want to grow as much as possible. And that is going to require a lot of failure. Okay. You're going to have to be sacrificed on a cross. You're going to have to go through some pain and some suffering in order to grow. So be willing to be like, fuck, I need to start failing now. Like I want to go and do some shit and I want to fuck up. I want to fail big time so that I can learn and grow and develop myself, because that's the ultimate thing that you're going to have. Because, most people even starting businesses, right? Probably you're going to fail at your first fucking business. Okay. But maybe your second one you'll be better at, and your third one. And then at some point, if you keep on failing, you're going to succeed. So I don't know. Those are the two things I would look at there. And I would just say, most important, bottom line is this: just pick something, just go fucking all into it. Keep your focus on the one thing as much as possible. And even when you don't feel like doing it, learn to work without motivation and just keep on going. And that's where the rewards are. It's on that other side of the barrier of motivation, because you will hit the motivation hill.
Yep. Right. And I feel like, I guess I already feel kind of old. I know I'm not.
Yeah, what are you, 21, 22?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're so
21.
old. Fucking old man.
I feel like I don't have enough time to take those risks, and maybe that's just, I don't know. I probably shouldn't feel that
You're
way.
completely wrong. Just know that and start internalizing that you're fucking super young.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter because, again, all right, the reason why you're afraid to take risks is because you're using someone else's definition of success, the world's definition of success, of value. You're using, I mean, in some way, you're looking for external validation, right? Because if you were a kid, fucking 7 years old, you would just like do whatever you wanted in life. Like you wouldn't give a fuck if someone likes, you know, what you're coloring or what you want to be a fireman or whatever these things are. You see what I'm saying? Like you wouldn't care, but you're caring now because you think there's something you're supposed to do, or you think you're going to get marked or some grades on whether or not you're successful or you're a successful person in life. Ultimately, when you're lying on your deathbed, right? You know, people they did this thing and they're like, oh, what do people? They say I would have wanted to spend more time with family. Nah, they're bullshit. The reason why they're saying that is because their family's right the fuck there. What they really want is they wanted to fucking take more chances in life and to feel like they lived their life fully, right? Even if you fucking fail, right? If you go after something hard and you take the risks and you push yourself and you did what you felt was right in life, not the safe path, but what you felt was right in life, maybe you'll be broke. Fuck it. I don't care, but you will feel like you lived your life. You're only going to get one shot at this. So take the chances. Right. It doesn't matter. If you fuck up, so what? There is no such thing. There's no such thing as failure. Failure with a capital F is only when you give up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Good stuff. Awesome. Let's go to our last two. Go ahead.
Hey guys. Can you hear?
Yeah, speak up.
Yeah. I was just wondering, what are the main objectives for someone in their early 20s going to mid 30s, and what should be the key habits in order to attain these objectives?
Good. Okay. So objectives that you should have in your 20s in going into your 30s, right? And then the habits?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, obviously it's going to depend from person to person, and it's going to be what you ultimately want out of life. But I could give you some general guidelines, what I think would set you up to have a platform to do whatever you want in life, which is this, right? For men, get in good physical shape. Okay. Your 20s is a magical time. Okay. I'm 39 now, and I'm fucking running and, like, you know, I'm in better shape than I was in my 20s. And I'm thinking, fuck, if I were doing this in my 20s, do you know how much easier this would be and how much better I'd be looking? Like, you know, so use that time, like, you know, use that time to really realize what you have there. So this is a good time to build that perfect physique that you want. That's going to set you up very well in your 30s. Because here's the other thing that happens. Like, guys always argue about the whole sexual market value curve and stuff in your 30s. And like, it doesn't exist because guys get old. Well, the reason why, regardless of whether guys age like fine wine or not, my answer to the question, which invalidates the whole thing, is that most guys in their 30s are fat fucks and lazy and look bad and didn't take care of themselves. And so even if it's true that you look better in your 20s than you do in your 30s, relatively to the competition out there, you are so much better because you're like in the 1% if you have six-pack abs and you're in your 30s. So be in the 1%. Okay. So that's one thing. And the second one is, you should be coming into your 30s with a business, I think. You know, again, if you look at the compound interest calculator, like I told you, if you read Millionaire Fastlane, all right, you're going to realize that the only way to really get rich is to build a business. Investing in real estate, it'll eventually get you there. It'll get you to the point where you can retire, it'll be comfortable. You're not going to be rich. Okay, not really. Maybe in 40 years. Okay, but that's a little bit too late. All right, so the only way you're really going to make true wealth is through a business. So by 30, you need to have a successful business going on, is what I would say. Also, at the same time, you know, you can't completely ignore your people skills and your game and pick up. You need to have some some skills with the ladies. So you should develop some level of game, and you should overcome social anxiety and force yourself to get out there and to, I would avoid long-term relationships until I usually tell guys, wait till you're at least in your 30s because of two reasons. One, because you'll have a much better selection and you'll be selecting better, right? That's the second reason, because you'll have some better criteria, because you'll know who the fuck you are, and you won't just, end up, shacking up with the first girl that lets you in her panties, right? So, which is what most guys do, honestly, right, in life, okay? And they do it in their 20s. So, that's what I would say. And then as far as habits, okay, for achieving these things, and again, that's just a platform. Like, you can choose which class that you want to be, right? I'm just telling you what a basic platform is. But in order to contribute to this, one thing you should be doing is you should be reading at least a minimum one book a month. I would recommend a book a week, okay? But if you're not reading at least a book a month, you're going to fall far, far behind. All right, behind every single successful entrepreneur I know. By the way, when I talk to them, we're always like sharing Audible lists, right? We're like, oh, let me see your Audible, and we always have the same books on there, okay? And every single one of them reads books.
So you don't differentiate between audiobooks and reading physical books. The difference?
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Cool.
Like, just get the information in your head, right? When I'm running like 50, 60 miles a week, I'm listening to audiobooks at 3x speed. So I go through like 3 audiobooks a week. So I just get a ton of, if you want to know where I get like all the knowledge and the things I think about, it's because I'm reading 3 books a week. And I've been doing that for years. And that's so key. Like, if you do that in all your 20s, it doesn't have to be 3 books a week. Like, if you're a distance runner like me, then yeah, you can do it. But, a book a week, okay, that's a goal I would set. I think that's not too high of a bar. It's that a book a week is probably like an hour of reading a day. Okay. If you do that and you're reading business books and you're reading books on relationships and dynamics and masculinity and all of these different areas, you're going to grow. And you're in personal development, especially, that's what I would say. And then really, like I said, invest in yourself. Okay. Develop some real skills, invest in yourself in personal development as well. Like you guys are doing here, I think that's great. But yeah, that's kind of, I think that's where I would say. And then the rest of it is kind of up to you, right? It's like, well, what specific direction do you want to go? What things do you want to achieve in life? Those are kind of up to you. But this is kind of the basic platform that I think all men should do.
Yeah, cool. Cheers, man.
All right, you're up. Go. Last one.
Hey, John, big fan. I got a couple quick questions for you. I'm going to be buying my first property this year in Texas, and I watched one of your videos where you told your real estate agent to lowball a bunch of houses that were either brand new to the market or on the market for 6 months, and it worked out pretty well for you. Do you think I should do the same?
It depends on the value of your time. So this is what I mean by this. So the idea behind that strategy is that if you lowball properties that are brand new to the market, okay, then there's a really good chance that the seller is going to be like, oh, fuck, I don't know how long this is actually going to take to sell. I guess I'll just like negotiate with this guy or take this offer because, hey, selling it on day one is a bonus. Like, I don't care if I take 20K less. A lot of people think that way, surprisingly. Right. Okay. And it might be their headache, and maybe they're just getting divorced and they're like, oh, I got to sell the house. And then your offer comes in like 40K under what they price it, but it's the first day. And now they don't really care if the wife loses 20K. Okay. And right. So they're like, fuck it. Here you go. Take it, right? So that happens, surprisingly. And then properties that are overpriced, that are sitting on the market for a long period of time, the reason why they're sitting on the market for long is because they're overpriced. So those people, those owners that hold those properties, they're like, oh, like they're so sick of having that house. They've been having it on the market for 6 months. They're not even getting any offers at this point. And then your lowball offer comes in, the first one they've seen in 3 months, and they're like, shit, we better counter to this guy. That's really low, though. We don't want him to go away, though, because what if we have to wait another 3 months before another offer comes in? So then you get in a good negotiating position with them. So that's kind of the strategy behind it. But the reason why I said it depends on what your value of your time is because, again, remember I was talking about dividing things into 2 transactions. Well, there's 2 transactions here as well. One of them is the investor buying the property at market value. The second one is the negotiator buying a property, wholesaling it under market value. Okay, because it's not just no time at all or no effort to throw out a bunch of offers and to find all these deals and to make offers on these deals. It's going to take you some time. You know, your real estate agent is going to be doing some of the work for you, but it's still going to take your time and your effort to find these under market deals. So like in my situation, you know, I'll just give it to you. I don't even do that anymore. And I'll tell you why. Is because I'm running multiple businesses and my time is not worth, like, I'll just pay market value for the property. I don't need a discount on the property. If it's just a decent deal at market value, it's worth it. Because if I spend 10 hours, you know, or 20 hours chasing a deal to try and invest a couple $100,000, the return is so shitty. If I can bill $1,500 an hour doing coaching, you know, why wouldn't I just pay someone to, like, why would I, you see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make sense if I save 10 or 20% on the deal, but that's my situation. But if you're not making a huge amount of money and you can save 10 or 20% on a $200,000 deal, and all it requires is like maybe like 5 or 10 hours of extra work for you, that's more money that you're making for your job. Fuck yeah, do it. It's worth it. Definitely.
Okay. Cool. And then for a down payment, do you recommend putting a lower down payment with a higher mortgage rate or a higher down payment with a lower interest or a lower payment?
So that's that knob we were talking about earlier, right? So it depends on two things, on how much that you want to work on long-term value, like increasing your net worth, that's turning it to the leverage side, and the risk profile you're willing to accept on that, because there is a slightly more risk when you're not making much cash flow versus, you know, how much money do you need now? Okay. And so, you know, there's different configurations of that knob. Like I said, we talked about the full leverage one. We talked about paying all cash. There's also a middle where you're putting like 50% down, where you're getting some money in your pocket. In fact, a lot of big syndicated deals do this because it makes the risk profile very tolerable for a lot of people. And so you're getting a little bit of money in your pocket, but you're still leveraged 50%. So it's a 2x lever, right? So if you put 50% down and a property goes up 3% in value, you get a 6% return because it's double, right? If you only put 10% down, you're getting a 10 times return. You get 30% on that. So you can see, so you kind of got to decide where you want to be, right? If I'm starting out and I'm like, I just want to build my net worth as much as possible, like the first guy that asked the real estate question, then I want to turn that lever to the leverage as much as possible because I got time. Okay. And in time, I'm going to make a lot of money being highly leveraged. But if I'm like, hey, I want to retire, I want to get some passive income, I want to quit my job and I want to just work on my business full time, but I need like some income coming in from my investment, then maybe I'm turning the knob, you know, then what I'm doing is I'm turning the knob as far to the cash flow as little to the cash flow as I can to get just enough money to be able to survive to get out of there. So I'm still using as much leverage as possible. But if I'm like, I'm done, you know, I'm 70, fuck this, I just want money and I just want to use it or whatever it is, you know, then maybe I'm turning all the way to cash flow. So if that makes sense.
Okay, cool. And last one. I know you've had issues with property managers in the past. So do you have a way to like vet them to, you know, try to, you know, bypass all that, you know, nonsense?
That's a tough one. I've never found a great solution for it. What I find is that I vet property management companies, and so I usually end up getting like a small property management company. And then since they're good, they grow. And then when they grow, they get this brilliant idea that, hey, you know what we should do? We should have our own maintenance. We should do in-house maintenance because why should we pay this handyman $50 an hour? We could just hire our own person. And as soon as they develop their own maintenance portion of their business, it's like the fucking One Ring. like they just can't resist the precious. Like they're like, oh, we should milk the owners. And like, no, we should milk the owners. Yes, we should milk the owners. And then they fuck you over. And then I fire them and then I get a new property management company. So I think that's just the cycle of life. Unfortunately, I mean, I try and vet them out. I call them up. I get references. You know, I've got like the best ones that I can right now, but they still kind of rip me off. You know, that's why I started to move, like I'm moving more of my money into commercial real estate now, like triple net leases where it's like, hey, there's no one managing the property. It's a triple net lease. You just business and they fucking pay you. Of course, you know, I'm starting to wonder how good that is going to be in the next year or so concerning what's happened. So, you know, there's downsides to everything. So.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good stuff. God damn, that was amazing. That's going in the webinar Hall of Fame for sure. Guys, one's in the chat if you liked that. I'm pretty sure that was pretty solid for most of you folks.
Hey guys, so if you enjoyed that talk, I want to encourage you to join the Bulldog Mindset membership. I give monthly Q&As where we have talks like this. This one was for someone else's group, but you can ask me questions and we'll go over all kinds of stuff. It's a huge, huge value for the people that are members. In fact, I'm going to give you a discount here below. I've been giving you here on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, a $7 trial for the first month of the Bulldog Mindset membership. So make sure you click down below and join us. There's a ton of content in there. Right now, there's like almost 2 years worth of weekly videos in there. We've got monthly Q&As. You can see all the old ones in there. I've got interviews with a bunch of people, book club. We've got a Facebook group. We're getting a Discord server that we're working on now. Just like a ton of value in there for a pretty low price. Plus, you're in a community of guys that are serious about improving themselves. So make sure you click below, and you can cancel any time. So there's really no risk. The worst you're going to be risking is like $7 to try it out. And I guarantee you're not going to cancel though, because no one cancels. Hardly anyone ever cancels because it's such a huge value, especially once you start getting into the content. So thank you guys for watching this, and hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.